few are chosen. So, everybody's called, but not everybody's chosen. That's what you got to remember.
Right.
And that means Israel, all of Israel.
All of Israel are called, but not all of Israel is chosen. There's a lot of Israel that's going to be destroyed. And if I may say, rightly so. Because some of our people are deplorable. Some of the things I see our people do, you can't think you're going to walk into the kingdom like that. So, many are called, but few are chosen. So, your question now.
That was it.
That was it?
Does it cover all of Israel being called?
Right. All of Israel is called, but only few are chosen. That's why the scripture tells us that there's going to be 2/3 destroyed of Israel. That's a lot when you think about it. If the scripture says that we are like the sands and the seashores, that's a lot of our people destroyed. Con? So let's bear that in mind. That's a very heavy situation right there. The other thing to bear in mind as well is this, that you're not in this just to sit by and watch. You have to be doing something. You have to have works. You've got to remember that. Right. Now, coming to even the Sabbath, that's works, believe it or not. That's why the scripture says, forsake not the assembling of the saints. You see, we must not forsake it. That's one thing that it said. The other thing that it goes on to say as well is this, that remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. So that's part of your works. You have to keep it holy. So these are things that as Israelites, we have to remember that they are greatly and solely important to our well-being as the children of the Most High God. Now, is there any questions that anybody may have on this brief summary that I just gave before we went live? Anyone? Any questions? All right. Now, just before we get into the lesson, I want to just quickly bring about some current affairs. Have you seen what's been going on over the last several days? Can anyone share? I'm aware, but is anybody there? It's frightening what's going on right now. Go ahead.
The IRS hiring 26,000. They just oh yeah, 2015.
I mean, what's your thought on that? The IRS are going to be what? Hold on. Is everyone aware of it? I think some of you have been switched off. Would you mind elaborating?
So they're hiring 87,000.
This is why the mic is good at this point. Just one of them. Just one of them. All right.
They're hiring 87,000 employees, and they'll be required to work at least 50 hours a week. But they'll also have to be ready to apply debt reports if needed. Is the requirement for the job.
Now, is anyone aware of that? Have we been living in a hole or something like that? You believe it or not, gentlemen, sisters, those of you watching online, you have to, at this particular time in your life, you have to be more cognizant, thoughtful of the news that's going on. Because you're going to get a whole lot of false news, but you're also going to get a whole lot of real news interwoven into that. And you have to be aware of what's going on. You can't find yourself in a situation where you're just hearing about something and your whole family is put at risk. The Bible tells us that we have to observe If you don't know what's going on, how are you able to observe the times that we're in? And these are the last, these are the last closing stages of time. That means that the IRS now has the same authority as the police to enforce getting IRS money. And yet, here's the joke of it. And this may get me into trouble, but I'm going to say it anyhow. There is no law for taxes.
That's true.
None. No law for taxes. Yet they make you pay taxes.
Yes, yes. Exactly.
I remember it's been over 30 years ago, or maybe even longer than 40 years ago, I asked this question, and someone said, I don't know, we just do it. I said, but where's the law? I asked an accountant, is there a law on this? He says, no. Then why do we pay? Government.
That's right.
But if there's no law, how do they have the enforceability to put you in jail then? Yes, ma'am.
And on top
You
of
could stand your feet, sir.
paying your taxes, once you work all your life, you're retired, you receive,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that you work all of your life and you pay taxes, and for Social Security,
Right.
and you receive Social Security and you pay taxes on that.
Absolutely.
true.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
That's extortion.
Of course, it's called stealing in slow motion.
In plain sight.
I want you to see me take your money, and there's not a thing you can do about it.
In plain sight, yes.
You pay social, and even now, even the money that you've saved up. Look, you got your. This is why. I learned this years ago, and a lot of people don't get. Our people don't get it. I remember years ago. I'm talking years ago, well over 20 years ago. Maybe I used to say to people, you have to have some form of insurance. That's guy, I don't need life. I said, I'm not talking about just plain life insurance. And I'm not going to get too deep into it because this is not what I'm here about. But they don't teach you that, and they don't teach our people that, because only it is the so-called Caucasian society and those who are well endowed financially who knows about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how they pass money on to their children in trust and all of those things without ever paying a dime in taxes. But our people don't know these things. You start telling people about it, they close up. You start telling them about there's a party going down the road, they'll awake. The IRS now have the right to put a gun in your face. That to me is mind-blowing. America, where is it going? Well, to hell, of course, but still. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, this pertains to money. Wendy Williams have over $20 million in the bank, but she can't get it. And this goes to saying that we cannot put our money in the bank, a lot of our funds in the bank. We need to put it, but she can't get her money.
Yes. But again, Wendy Williams listened to people who look the opposite of her and believe their word.
That's right.
And that's why I say it's like even this truth that we're in. If I looked the opposite of myself in terms of color, a whole lot of our people would be listening to what I'm saying.
Con, believe it.
But because I look like you,
Con,
that's Negro, don't know what you're talking about. And that's how we treat one another.
con.
You grew up in homes where, who's at the door? It's a black guy. Tell you what, we're not interested in whatever he has. It's a white guy. Then they get up and they go to the door and say, can I help you, sir?
Yes. That's right.
We've been trained that way.
Con.
There's a lot of things for us to get our head adjusted to. All right. Any other commentary about current events? So everybody's head's been in the sand, except for our sisters over there.
There's a grace piece. There's something about Breonna Taylor, the 4 policemen killed her in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're gonna persecute the four involved, which they've been protecting all this long. But the question is, they're doing it for political reasons because of the midterms.
Right.
So
Remember what has happened, that in case anyone's not aware of this, let me remind you, the police still operate under a certain law. And one of those laws goes back to slavery. And those who were the slavery police, they were not held criminally if they killed one of the slaves that they went out to capture. That same, I don't know if it's a law or whatever it is, it still exists to this very day. That's why it's not easy to persecute or to bring to justice a cop who kills one of our people. Do you know that if that same cop killed someone who is or was Caucasian, that same cop can go to jail for life? But he kills you and he gets fined and possibly put on probation. Those laws exist here in America. It might do you good every now and then to go and check these things out. Yes, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to add to what Sister Rebecca said. It appears that the government is also buying up a lot of essential items. They're also buying up air conditioners, the Sear, the high quality air conditioners that don't use the Freon. So they're more high efficiency, because it's been rumored that the electrical kilowatt fees are going to go up, and they're predicting it might go up to $1 per kilowatt.
Correct.
As well. And they're buying up, they're contracting with companies, food producers, and obligating them under contract to produce so much food for them. And then when they have shortages for the general public, it's because sometimes if the government has them under contract to only provide to them.
Sure. So again, that's another situation that is in existence right now. It gets worse. But yes, sir, you have a point.
Yes, sir. Just to add on, and it was in the news, and sometimes these little things you just forget. And it said, do not think. It said air conditioner will not always be around for us. And they're talking about the near future. So a lot of think it will be, but that's just to add on what you were saying about the air conditioner. They're saying, and I guess we don't pay a lot of attention, it will not always be here.
Go ahead, sir.
Grace and peace.
Grace and peace.
The truth is, all of these things have been in predictive programming for years. They put this on movies, they put this in television, and even cartoons to show you what they were going to be doing.
Right.
And we just happen to now be in the midst of it where we see them actually doing it.
Right.
So for us, we really have to be on point to make certain that because honestly, some family members aren't going to hear no matter what. The only thing you can do is just prepare for yourself and hope for the best.
Yeah. Thank you. Lastly, you have
Your volume.
my mic is too low, is it? All right, we'll make some adjustments for that. All right, so last but by no means least, one of the things I wanted to call your attention to was the fact that there has been these private individuals who have created certain packages to go on cars that cars now can drive with water. A couple of them have been killed. They've been Caucasian. The black ones have been killed.
14.
The black ones have been killed. Now the Caucasian ones have been killed too. And because they've created kits that they've been selling privately, that they can, you put a gallon of water in your car, you could drive for 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
That's just because, but they've said that the technology has been around for nearly 100 years. But remember, the oil industry is a big racket. And there's a whole lot associated with that. And yes, people will die because of it. Because nobody wants to lose their bonuses. So there's a whole lot of scheming going on with that. And by the way, these things are real. These things aren't, we're not making them up. They're real. But the reason why they don't make headline news is because the governments right now are in a position where they've got the ability to quash certain types of news that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want it to become widespread.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what was going on with all the food that was stocked at the docks and all the warehouses burning down. Notice how they quickly closed that down, that it never became national news. And warehouses were going ablaze all over the country. Why is this? Why was the food stopped and not continue to come in?
Mm-hmm.
When many of the ships now had to turn around because they were sitting there for nearly 6 months with food and perishable goods, and then they had to go back to their countries.
Mm-hmm.
This country is under a certain siege, and that siege is going to take place very soon. And brothers and sisters, you've heard me say to you before, take your time. When you go shopping, buy an extra can. Buy extra flour. Buy extra rice. And when you're choosing the rice, for pity's sake, please get real rice and not the plastic pellet rice. Because in some of those stores, they sell those things. Go to known outlets to buy certain types of food. Can't. But you need to start doing that now. And do it quietly. Don't make a fuss. Buy your water. Start stacking those things up. Buy an extra crate each week. And if you buy those big bottles that you have, those water units, buy an extra bottle at least once a month. That means you're doubling up. Because the time is going to come that people are going to be breaking into people's homes to get food. I don't mean to be a prophet of doom, because that's not what I'm here for. But I'm here to make you aware. The scripture says that certain types of information must be in the prophet's mouth. Not all this foolishness about, I see you're going to have a Rolls Royce in 7 days or in 6 months. None of that nonsense. None of the nonsense about some of you are going to get $10,000. None of that nonsense. You're in a time of survival. All right. We have a teaching for you, but before we go into that, I want to reach out to all our brothers and sisters who are online and to say it's good to have you with us again. And I give all praises to all our brothers in the Florida area, going all the way down to Miami, our brothers over in California, our brothers over in Detroit, our brother over in Tennessee, all of the brothers who are on this mainland that are here. I want to give all praises to you by saying, Barakatha Yahweh Shema Mashiach Yahushai Selah. The Most High has been good to us and to even our brothers who are overseas. Our sisters and brothers who are in the UK who listen attentively each week, preparing themselves for the great coming of our Lord and Savior Yahushai, who is coming back to rid the earth and suppress all of our enemies and to set us free and bring us back to our homeland. We look forward to that day. And with that, I've been promising a teaching, and the title of this teaching is The Power of 12. The Power of 12. And a subtitle to that is The 12 Tribes Breakdown. Now, what I'm going to give is not anything different from what some of our other brothers have taught, because those who have taught this have done an excellent job. And all I want to do is to piggyback on what they have done with some additional information that I've been inspired to bring forward. And I want to help you to be aware that none of this 12 tribes, the 12 tribes chart, is as foolish as you think. The 12 tribes chart is important. Now, is it accurate for everyone in terms of who we are? that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is we have a reference point. As a people, we can look at it and say, that fits me at this present time. Because remember, the scriptures teach us that the angels of the Lord are going to come and they're going to do the separating. The scriptures speak about he's going to separate the sheep from the goats. He's going to do that. He says clearly that we must not do the separating in case we destroy our own brethren, thinking they are thus, and because we don't have the evidence, we don't have the spiritual and proof of who they are, and we kill or hurt our own people. So in this teaching, we're going to go into something. I'm not going to race through this. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to give even you an opportunity that you can send in text at the end, because hopefully this won't be as long as I normally go, because I want to give time that if you have questions, you can text in those questions and we can answer those questions for you so that you have complete clarity each week. Now, this is going to be either a 2-part or 3-part. We don't know, because it depends on, remember we're dealing with 12 tribes. So I'm not going to gallop through all of them, because some of them, in terms of their history, it has to be explained that you yourself get clear understanding also. Con? So in order to take this forward, we're going to begin by going to the book of Romans chapter 11 and verse 1. I don't know whether that was an introduction or something like that, but let's go from there.
This is the book of Romans chapter 11 and verse 1. I say then, has Yahweh cast away his people? Yahweh forbid.
Now, here is Paul. He's asking and answering the question. The question is asked, I say then, hath Yahweh or hath God cast away his people? Has he casted us away? And he ends up by answering, read.
For I, no, I say then, has Yahweh cast away
Go ahead.
his people? God forbid.
That's it. That's what I needed you to say.
Okay.
Right, stay with, now I need you to pay very close attention with me, sir, because I don't want me to have no time for debuckles this week. So here we are. He says, God forbid, Yah forbid, Yah forbid. Quickly go with me to Amos chapter 3. Let's go to Amos chapter 3 real quick. Amos chapter 3, and we're going to read verse 1. Amos chapter 3 and verse 1.
This is the book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 1. It reads, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you.
Read it again.
Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you.
Go on.
O children of Israel.
Oh, what?
O children of Israel.
Now, is he speaking to every nation?
No.
So he says, hear this word, children of Israel. So, I can't see that. So, he tells us clearly here that he's speaking primarily to Israel.
Con.
You see that?
Con.
He is not speaking to every nation. And we have to get this in our noggin, in our brains, in our mind. He is not speaking to everyone. Now, I've received some emails from the left-hand side, which are from some very negative individuals. And some of our emails from black people, by the way, who are always concerned about the other nations.
Con.
And I'm always wondering, what is wrong with these people? I have never received an email from one of the other nations who turn around and say, well done, Pastor Thompson. Well done. You're teaching some positive news about your people and how they are the children of God. I've never received one. Because they're not pleased about that. They are not pleased that you are the living example and the walking epistle of what this book is all about. They have never turned around and said to me, Pastor Thompson, you've done a good work that way. None of the nations have ever said that. Only those who believe that we are Israel and are focused on living right, keeping his laws and statutes, that they might make it into the kingdom. Only those individuals are the ones that have written to me and sent me words of encouragement. And Brother Heidelberg in California, I just want to quickly just give a quick shout out to you also. You see, here's the thing that I want you to understand. That the scriptures is making it crystal centric. This is all about Israel. Read Amos chapter 3 and 1 again, please.
Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel.
Oh, who?
O children of Israel.
Go on.
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying.
So only Israel was brought up from the land of Israel. I mean, I've yet to see any of the other nations there. Finish it.
Verse 2. You only have I known of all the families of the earth.
It says what?
You only.
You, read that slow for me, please.
Yes, sir.
We don't want to gallop through that. It says what?
You only.
You, Israel, only. What?
Have I known.
Have I known.
Of all the families.
Of all the families where?
Of the earth.
Of the earth. Can it be any plainer than that?
Nope.
If anyone thought that I'm on some bandwagon to distort the scriptures, you're wrong. Because all of our camps understand this and read this the same.
Come on.
We speak the same language. You done with that, or is there more?
There's more.
Go ahead.
Therefore, I will punish you.
I will do what?
I will punish you.
I will punish you. And we are the only nation under judgment right now. We've been under judgment. Since 70 AD, we've been under judgment. We've been under judgment since Egypt, since the Assyrians, since the Babylonians, since the Persian Medes, since the Greeks, since the Romans. We've been under judgment. How many other nations can say that? You get the Jews who turn around, the Ashkenazi Jews, and say, well, we've been under punishment. 1945. 5 years? Try 400 years. In fact, try 6 centuries. So we've been under judgment. Did you finish that?
For all your iniquities.
For all of our iniquities. Come
on.
Let's go back to Romans chapter 11 and verse 1. Let's read.
This is the book of Romans 11 and 1. I say then, has Yahweh cast away his people?
Go on.
Yahweh forbid.
God forbid, go on.
For I also am an Israelite.
He's an Israelite. This is Paul. Go on.
Of the seed of Abraham.
He's of the seed of Abraham. Go on.
Of the tribe of Benjamin.
And he is of the tribe of Benjamin. Now, let's also clear up this other thing that I've heard mentioned in Christianity. That there are spiritual Israelites. Where? Where does the spiritual Israelite exist? There's no such thing as spiritual Israelite. Because if there can be a spiritual Israelite, there can be spiritual everything. A spiritual Afghanistan, a spiritual Philistine, a spiritual Moabite, a spiritual Amorite. but there is none. This is why I have problems with those who teach and say that they are Egyptologists. I have a problem with that. Why is it that only Egypt has atologists? Why aren't there Romantologists, Greektologists, Pakistanitologists, Chinesetologists? There is none. But the reason why they make these things is because they cannot accept the fact. I sent out a video to, I don't know how many people got it or redistributed, where this Egyptian woman, she broke it down nicely. She said, those of you who say that there are white Egyptians, you're dreaming. She said, I was born here. She said, I am melanated. I'm not melanated as some of my people, she said. But she said, here's the thing about me. She said, when I go out into the sun, because I am melanated, I go darker and darker and darker. But she says those so-called white people who live over here and call themselves Egyptians, when they go out in the sun, they go redder and redder, and they burn, and they have to go back inside. So how could they be from here? Oh, she broke it down nicely, did she not?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you didn't get it, can you make sure that they get it for you, please? Because what we have to be aware of is that Esau's endeavor is to take all of your esteem and your culture away from you. Because Esau does not have any. Give me one culture that Esau has. See, crickets. Going wild over something. You know, I can't remember anything that Esau's ever done. Esau does not have any culture. They take culture from others and assume it. That's why they make movies, making themselves the gods of Egypt. A white Egyptian? You know, the only person who tried to do that was Ptolemy. See, this is where it's from his bloodline that you get, what's the name of that? I know who should, but I'm just teasing you. What's the name of that so-called girl that they have? And Julius Caesar fell in love with her. Okay, well, you said it out. All right, Cleopatra. Because Cleopatra was the daughter of Ptolemy, and she was of mixed bloodline. See? So here's my point. My point is this, that there is no spiritual Israelite. Come with me, if you please, to 2nd Ezra. The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 14. 2nd Ezra, chapter 14, we're going to begin at verse 1.
Yes, sir. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 14. We're at page 31 and verse 1. And it came to pass upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me.
Read.
And said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, Here I am, Lord. And I stood upon my feet.
Read.
Then said he unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses.
Unto who?
Unto Moses.
Unto Moses. I revealed myself unto Moses. Go on.
And talked with him when my people served in Egypt.
In Egypt. Now, here's the thing that you must understand with that. When you read that, and that's why you can understand now fully why the Apocrypha had to be removed out of the general King James body, because it was the book that was between Malachi and Matthew. Now, here, they know that Moses indeed was a black man. They know he was. Because the story goes that when he put his hand in his bosom and took it out, his hand became leprous. And when he put his hand back, his hand came back normal. The beauty about the scriptures is that it is teaching us something. That the things that are have the pattern of looking very leprous-like are the things that have what attached to it? Can anyone tell me? If something is already a particular color, that means something is tied to it. If leprosy is caused by a certain thing or position or ruling, then anything that looks like it then must come either in the same order. Are you with me so far? I'm choosing my words carefully here. Did you have your hand up, sir? Go ahead.
Curse?
A curse. Exactly. It is a curse. And therefore, we happen to live in a world where we move among a people that is a curse. Now that is never taught. What, Pastor Thompson? Look, that's not me. It's in the book here.
God.
But they are also your enemies. And notice what he says here. He says, I manifested myself and revealed myself unto Moses. And I talked with him when my people served in Egypt. Read.
And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the Mount of Sinai.
Go on.
Where I held him by me a long season.
I held him by me for a long season. Go on.
And I told him many wondrous things.
Go on.
And showed him the secrets of the time.
So the Most High God, when he took him, he spent time showing him the end of times and what would happen to Israel. Are you with me so far? Then it says, read.
And the end, and commanded him, saying.
Salaki, read 5 from the top again.
And I told him many wondrous things.
Go on.
And showed him the secrets of the time.
And showed him the secrets. The Most High God showed him secrets of what?
Of the time.
Of the times. Go on.
And the end, and commanded him, saying, these words shalt thou declare.
These words shall what?
Thou declare.
Declare, read.
And these shalt thou hide.
These shall you hide. In other words, there are certain things that had to be hid in a parable. Quickly go to Exodus chapter 32, 24, Salaki. Go there for me, please.
Yes, sir.
Go to Exodus chapter 24, and I think it's 11.
I'm there, sir.
24, and just bear with me.
Yes, sir.
Bear with me. Yeah, go ahead and read it for me, please.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 24 and verse 11.
In fact, I want you to read verse 16 on down.
Verse 16, and the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai.
Go on.
And the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud.
Right, so remember here, this is now the Most High. This is not Yahweh, this is the Most High speaking with him, and he calls him, Moses, out of the midst of the cloud. Read.
And the sight of the glory of the Lord
Go on.
was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel.
Read. So remember, the children of Israel at the bottom, when they're looking up, it looks like there's fire on top of the mountains. But Moses and some of the elders are up there with him. But read.
And Moses went into the midst of the cloud.
So he went into the midst of the cloud. Go on.
And get him up into the mount.
Into the mount. Go on.
And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
40 days and 40 nights. He was separated from all of Israel. Why was he there? Because it's there the Most High God shared with him these things that we just read in 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 5. You see? I need you to understand that. I need you to be very clear. Because some of you understand it in one book but not in the other. And both books relate. And the reason why it's important, because they correspond together. That's how you prove your evidence. Because it says precept must be upon precept. Con. So I don't want you just to listen to this and pay no attention. Get it. All right?
Yes, sir.
Read verse 18 again, sir.
This is the book of Exodus 24 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses went into the midst of the cloud.
Go on.
And get him up into the mount.
Go on.
And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
40 days and 40 nights. You see that?
Gone.
Now, does anyone have any questions? And again, I'm doing this progressively. Any questions, anyone? All right. Any? All right. Now, let's drop that now. Let's go to Genesis chapter 49. Genesis chapter 49.
Gone over there.
Yeah, we're going to have to read this slowly so that we don't miss anything.
Yes, sir.
Let's begin at verse 1.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together.
Do what?
Gather yourselves together.
Gather yourselves together. Read.
That I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father.
And do what?
And hearken unto Israel your father.
All right, so let's go back. Let's read it again.
This is Genesis 49 and 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together.
So all 12 sons came, stood in front of their father, and they listened to what the father had to say. Go on.
That I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
So he knew, the Most High put it in his spirit to know what was going to happen to his sons. Read.
Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob.
And do what?
And hear, ye sons of Jacob.
Go on.
And hearken unto Israel your father.
Hearken unto Israel your father.
God.
Read.
Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength.
So it's telling us clearly here that he wants to speak about his firstborn son.
God.
Because his firstborn son speaks about his strength, his power. But before we do that, I think I want to just give you a little precept, because I want to tie that in, verse, especially the latter clause of verse 1, because some of you may want to do extensive studies after this. Go to Hebrews 1 and 2. Hebrews 1 and 2. Because it says here that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. So let's read Hebrews 1 and 2.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 1 and 2.
Read.
Has in these last days spoken unto us by his Son.
By his what?
By his Son,
Go on.
whom he has appointed heir of all things,
Of all things. Go on.
by whom also he made the world.
By whom also he made the world. Right?
Con.
All right. So it's very important then that we understand that the last days information is not coming to us simply from one source. It's coming to us from other sources that makes the information credible and clear. So there's no mistake in this.
Con.
You see? Now, read verse 3, sir, Hebrews.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 1 and 3. Who being the brightness of his glory
Go on.
and the express image of his person,
Go on.
and upholding all things by the word of his power.
Go on.
When he had by himself purged our sins,
Go on.
sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high.
Majesty on high. All right, so we see then that he is speaking about is Yahweh Shai, right?
Con.
So he's the next individual who gives us the witness or the clarity of the last days information.
Con.
Good. So now that we have that, we can go back, if you please, and read verse 2 again, back in Genesis 49 and verse 2.
This is the book of Genesis 49 and 2. Gather yourselves together and hear.
And do what?
And hear,
So you must hear this. Go on.
ye sons of Jacob,
Ye sons of Jacob. Go on.
and hearken unto Israel your father.
Israel your father. Now, remember, Israel, Jacob is also our father.
Con.
He's our great, great, great grandfather.
Con. Con.
We have the right to say that. Now, when we read on now, watch how he declares unto his firstborn what his future is all about. Let's read.
Verse 3. Reuben, thou art my firstborn,
You are my strength. Go on.
my might,
My might. Go on.
and the beginning of my strength.
So your firstborn, he's the one that holds the beginning of your strength. Now, when you have, remember, he could have 10 girls, but until you have a boy, it is then that the beginning of your strength begins, right? According to the scriptures. And then it says, read.
The excellency of dignity.
The excellency of dignity. So it's making that very, very clear, because the excellency of his dignity, meaning that there was excellence in his bloodline. And there was dignity in his bloodline. Read.
And the excellency of power.
And there was excellency of power. Watch what happens. Read.
Unstable as water.
Now he drops him down from heaven, builds him up, then drops him to the ground. You are as unstable as water. Read.
Thou shalt not excel.
So he says, even though you have excellency of dignity and you have excellency of power, he says, you shall not excel. Read.
Because thou wentest up to thy father's bed.
You went beyond the boundaries of your authority. And you went into the bedroom of his concubine. Read.
Then defilest thou it.
Go on.
He went up to my couch.
Go on.
Simeon.
All right, let's stop there, because I think we need to, before we get to Simeon, we need to break down who this is. Now, Reuben, he is, and we're going to bring some slides up so you can actually see this. Reuben is the one that history has defined as the Seminole Indians. The Seminole Indians. Now, tell me, what is your understanding of the Seminole Indians, Wendell?
The Seminoles are based out in Florida, for the most part. Seminoles are based down in Florida. That's where they matriculated, and they moved there. They came supposedly they came across the north, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, that's all I need you to say at this point. All right. Does anyone else have any other information about the Seminoles? Now remember, even though they're called the Seminoles, their original term that was used for them, because remember, the word Seminole was a term that was coined later on by those who were of the house of Esau. But they were originally called Cimarrons. 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 Some say Cimarron, but Cimarrons. And because the word in itself means dark-skinned people. You see? And the reason why you have to understand that, because if you don't, what you're going to find is that people are going to try to make them look white. We'll prove that in a moment as well. So if we can pull some images, I want to, let me see if I can do this. Because sometimes we don't really understand where all of the Indians really come from. So I'm going to break this down slowly, and I'm going to use some images here whilst we prepare. This particular image here is an image of this Indian is called Chief Three Bears. Now, does he look like one of us? Of course he does. I don't know where the hesitation comes from. That nose, that frown, that look, that face. And yet here he is with feathers and with fringes. And this particular man here, he is a chieftain. Are you with me so far? Can you understand that? Now, why? Because I want you to understand that all of the Indians that existed in America were in fact Indians. They were black. And you see, we've been taught a lie in this respect, that some of these individuals that you see in terms of Indians, you may see them on television and so on, they are not real Indians. Now, do you have any idea as to why some of those Indians look different to us now? Does anyone have any history? I just want to know as to, some of you may be more scholarly in this class than I might know. So, does any of you have some idea? Any of you? Anyone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Does anyone here have some idea or understanding as to why the Indians that we see today do not look like the Indians that were originally in this country? You do? All right. Did you say you do? Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can. I want you to remain standing, sir. All right. So let's answer that question.
Because they were raped and pillaged by Esau.
They were raped and pillaged.
Spaniards and all other nations.
Say that again. They were what?
They were raped and pillaged by all other nations, including Esau and the Spaniards and the Portuguese individuals.
Okay. All right. Now let's see if we can look at it a little bit more intensely. The reasons why the original Indians of America, they were black. I need you to get that very firmly in your head. When they were doing General Custer, and General Custer was killing off all the Indians, and you were a little child at the time saying, go ahead, General Custer, kill the Indians off, kill the bad guys. You were really rooting for the so-called white man to kill off you. They were killing you, but you didn't know.
Right.
All of the Indians of America were black. All of them. Every last one.
God.
We'll prove it in a moment, but we're putting up some slides. So we want the ones that I think is Mark's Seminole. We'll pull those up. I'm going to show you an image here whilst we're pulling that up. This here, I hate the wording of it, but this is typical of how Esau would do it. They're calling this black old woman.
Pastor.
That one's good. We'll use that in just a moment. They're called an honorary black heritage. And this is in, I think it's Harrisburg. She receives an award, a check. Can you see that? Can you see what tribe she is? I'll put it down just one. I want people to see the name that's on that check there. Can you see the name on the check?
God.
All right. What is the name on the check? Choctaw. These are the Indians that existed. She is not an honorary. She's an actual bloodline. She's an actual bloodline. Are you seeing this?
God.
Stay with me, doctor. Stay with me. Keep your eyes on me, right? So this is very, very important, because if you don't get this, you'll not understand where we're going to go next. Because you have been told lies. Black people, as Indians, were here before the transatlantic slave.
God.
We're going to prove all of it. That's what I say. I'm not rushing this. I'm taking my time. They were here before. Now, those that were here were of the Reuben. And Reuben is the Seminole Indians, which were scattered throughout the Florida Everglades.
God.
The writings say in the history books that they carried themselves with dignity. They refused to sign any treaties. And they were forced upon to go and to collect all of the African slaves who were runaways, who then were living in the Florida Everglades. And how it is, it says, even though they were enforced and pushed to go and do these things, it is written in the history books that the Seminole Indians, if we can go back to that image that you just had up, the Seminole Indians, watch this, they wore mitres. They wore a type of turban, which goes back to our forefathers. Now, they were asked to capture the Negroes, but instead, you know what they did? Thank you, let's put that up so that everybody can see. This particular image here, that's a Seminole Indian you see on the right there. And on the left-hand side you see, which may be your right, is a so-called Negro. Remember, they're all the same family. They just don't know it.
God.
Because the Indian, as you see him, he was over here first. They got here first. And when they got here in 772 or 73 BC, when they got here, they were the first people here. Are you seeing this?
God.
Now, here's the other thing that you need to be aware of. That they made the so-called slaves marry their daughters. And they made them high-ranking within their tribes. You see, they made them chiefs, made them leaders, marry their daughters. Are you seeing this now?
Con.
Notice their color in terms of their complexion, very similar. Now, keep that image there for a moment. I want you to go back to the Apocrypha real quickly, and I want you to go to 2nd Ezra, and I want you to go to page 31, and we're going to read chapter 13, and we're going to begin at verse 14.
Yes, sir. This is the book of 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha, page 31, and it's going to be 13 and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners.
Doing what?
Carried away prisoners.
Go on.
Out of their own land.
Read.
In the time of Osei.
Osei, go on.
The king.
Read.
Whom Salamassar.
Go on.
The king of Assyria led away captive.
Go on.
And he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land.
Go on.
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen.
Now remember, this is the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom. Go on.
And go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
Read.
That they might keep their statutes, which they have never kept in their own land.
Read.
And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river.
Read.
For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood.
Now remember this. This is what you're going to keep in memory. Again, we're trying to make you understand why there are some still over there and there are those that were here. Not all of them returned. Many of them came over to this land, whilst others of them stayed over there. And some of them, whilst they were traveling down, some of them even stopped off into Africa, which is the main continent. This is why you'll find that there are tribes in South Africa that are called Danites. Danites. They're there. People ask them, where are the Danites? You know, we don't seem to hear them or see it. They're still over there on the continent of Africa, and they're primarily in South Africa, and they are called the Limba. Limba. Some pronounce it Lamba. They are the nations of people that are down there. And what they tried to do, I had some images. What they tried to, the white man tried to use images of making the Limba Jews look white. Can you believe that? And then they showed the originals, and then they showed the fakes, and so on. All right, let's get back. So let's finish this, what we got here.
Till they were passed over.
Read.
Verse 45. But through that country there was a great way to go.
Go on.
Namely, a year and a half.
A year and what?
And a half.
Year and a half. Go on.
And the same region is called Asarath.
Called what?
Asarath.
Called Ashtaroth. Okay. All right. You finished with that. Good. Now, here is the difference between the Seminoles and the Choctaws and the Chickasaws. The Chickasaws and what's the other one?
The Cherokee, Seminole?
No, I just showed you here.
Oh, the Choctaw.
Choctaws and the Chickasaws, what they did, they actually partnered up with the white soldiers. And that's where you get the history about the Indians having hard labor on the black slave, because it was the Chickasaws and the Choctaws who did that. The Seminoles were the only ones who didn't break any of their oath with their own brethren. They didn't do that. But the Chickasaws and the Choctaws, they did. Now you'll understand why the history of their demise was so hard on them. You see? Because there's a law that's in Israel that we mustn't harm our own brethren. But they did that. And when you study the history of the Chickasaws and the Choctaws, they found themselves in some hardship with the so-called white man, even back then, and even to this very day. Now, there's another image. I want to bring all the images that we have of the Seminoles. I didn't have them. Just bring them up one by one. Meantime, I want to go to this book. So let's go ahead and do that, if you please. This particular book, whilst that's coming up, this is called Black Indians, A Hidden Heritage. Right? And so, I got you. And so here, you will see that picture there, and this is the other picture on the opposite side. See? Showing husband and wife. All right? Now, sir, if we can, this is where you have to become a little bit more light-footed for me. All right. So here we are. I want to go, if you please, to go to page 57. Meanwhile, what we have on the screen there, we have 4 different types. Could you read out the names of them? I think that they're listed in the information you have there. We have Apache, we have Seminole. Now the Seminoles, I can tell you that's the brother up there on what is my left-hand side, which is your right-hand side in the top corner. You see, he's wearing a turban.
Yes, sir.
Right. That's it there. Then we have let me see, let me pull that information. Not to worry. I got you. Do not worry yourself. That's okay. No, that's all right. I've got it. Dr. Man has it under control here. All right, so we have the Chickasaw, which is our brother with the top hat. We have the Seminole, which is our brother with the turban. Then in the lower left-hand corner, we have Crow. Now, this other brother here on the lower right-hand side, he is, now there's a confusion with it. Some say he's Apache, some say he's Cheyenne. But he is indeed Apache. Now, these are black men. Are you noticing this? Again, I'm not rushing this. See, I'm calm, I'm collected, I'm not rushing it. Because I want you to see, these are the images that should have been taught in the schools, showing our sons and daughters that the original Indians of America look like this. Adrian, do you know why they don't look like that anymore? I'm trying to say our brother over there.
Because of integrating.
Well, that's part of it, but this is why they don't look like it. The Americans invented something called the $5 Indian. $5 Indian. Now, anyone aware of what the $5 Indian is? Go ahead, tell us.
Grace and peace, sir. That was where they figured out if they could get $5, they could get on what was called the Dawes Rolls, and those rolls would give them legitimacy to get a hold of some money that they were going to get as a result of being on those rolls. And all they had to do was pay $5 to do it.
Right. It allowed them to get on this roll, but also allowed them legitimacy to own land. The primary movement with that was to give the land to white people. So a lot of them, they got the land, but guess what they had to do? They had to act like they were Indians. That's why if you notice, especially here in Texas and from here going all the way up, you'll notice that white people will wear certain neck dress that is Indian, and you'll find some of them will even wear certain jackets that have fringes on them, or they'll wear those necklaces that have many colors in them, those beads. It's because they are people who still have a stake in the land. So when Hollywood came along, Hollywood did not want to remove that image. And so they would have them do dumb things like say, instead, because they couldn't speak the language of the Apache or the language of the Choctaw or the Cheyenne, guess what they did? They said that we want you to do is just to say, mm. And you always know, watch the movies. They're going, or they'll use the word, oh.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
All the movies. That's all the Indians ever spoke. And then they'd always speak like they were slightly demented. We, brothers. We don't speak like that. And again, we'll prove that because we have documentation that will actually tell you how they spoke. And they spoke Hebrew. Isn't that something? So look at this image here. This is a beautiful black woman. Indian. Can we go back to the one previous to this? And what I guess I'm trying to get you to see is that these are your people. Look, she's wearing fringes. She has her hair all braided up. Look at the colors that she's wearing. That's why our people are not afraid to wear bright colors. But being under Esau causes us to want to wear the colors that dark gray color, depressing. I remember back in the day, we used to go to church and wear bright colors, and people said, "Where are you going, to the carnival?"
Right, so true.
White people, wear, let me put my glasses on. You're just too bright for me. The white man. All right, sorry, now go forward now. Please, man. Thank you so much. So these are our people. This is the color that I want it to be burnt into your memory. All those watching online, I want you to know this is who our people are. Now look at this family here. Those boys, do they not look like us?
They do.
Look at the daughter in the middle. Look at her father and mother on either side. And he looks like a proud man, you see? Keep going. Let's go a little bit more. And these are beautiful things to see, because when you see it, you begin to realize that there's more to us as a people. But they purposely cut that off. Here are some children. Look at the baby. And the baby's in a bivouac.
Yeah.
Look at the fringes that are on all of the dresses. With the moccasins on. These are our people. And this is why we have Negroes who get caught up with the hair business, but they got straight hair. You have to remember this, Negro, that all of the hair types begin with us. The white man came out of us. That's why he has the hair that he has. Stop getting mixed up with stupid hair. Deal with the color. Here's that boy, young boy there. Look, handsome young boy. Got fringes on the side of his trousers. He's got his breastplate on. See? Because those are things that come from the homeland. And the reason why they have it, because remember, when they came over here, they did not come as slaves. They came as free men, binding the land and still bringing the culture of the homeland with them. Look at this now. This is a Seminole husband and wife. See, now he's replaced the turban with a top hat. See that? Look at the colors that that's, and look how modestly she's dressed.
Why does he have on a skirt?
Why does he has breeches underneath that. He has breeches underneath that. You see? And that's how they wore, because they ran, they climbed, they jumped, they swam. These were the type of items that allowed them to move swiftly. Let's go to the next one. We'll do a few more of these before I get back into the teaching. We're going to do some reading in a moment. And here, now this is the one I wanted to get to. This one here shows you a Seminole woman with a Negro slave. Now you will see how the slaves married into the Indians. That's why we're so closely related. That's why you hear some of our people will say, I got some Indian in me, whatever that means. But here we are. This is where it all comes from, you see? That's him who's now obviously operating freely with them. Come on, get me with one more before we pause this for a moment. Any questions that anybody has whilst we're doing this? Now, this is an old photograph. This goes back to the 1800s, the mid 1800s. And this is showing you that these are Seminoles, and you see them with their hats on, you see them how they're dressed, you see them with their long plaits, and see how dark they are. So no one can turn around and say, well, I don't believe that they are this, that. Yeah, you can see it. This is a photograph. You can't doctor these things. This is how the people looked. I think you need to have a drink of water, sir. And this is what this actually does here. It helps us to see our people as to who they are. Come on?
Come on.
All right. Do we have any questions? All right. Now, we're going to take it a step further now. Let's put that on pause just for a moment, if you please. All right. What I want you to do at this particular point, good. In fact, yeah, we'll leave that just for now, and then we'll come up to the rest in just a moment. All right. If you could go to page 57 in the book Black Indians, and give us the name of the book. Tell us the name of the book. Tell us the name of the writer, and the year that was written.
Yes, sir. This is the book called The Black Indians, A Hidden Heritage by William Loren Katz.
All right.
Let's see the year that came out.
All right, doesn't matter. Let's just go straight ahead.
Okay. I'll go to 57, sir.
57, thank you.
Okay. In position to start.
Go ahead, sir.
This is...
So you're going to read the highlight. Could you just turn it to me just for a moment? Could you just turn?
Yes, sir.
57. All right. Just read that information there. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
The Seminole delegation to Washington, D.C. In 1825.
18 when?
1825.
See, 1825. Go on.
Included Negro Abraham as interpreter and as representative of the large black minority.
See that? Seminole Indians, part of the large black minority.
Gone.
Back in 1825. Got that?
Gone.
All right. Now hold that. Did you finish it, sir?
I finished it, sir.
All right. Just hold that for me, because I want you to go to page 60. Have that in readiness. But I want to go back to the scriptures, if you please. Now, let's go back and read, if you please, again. Genesis chapter 49, and begin at verse 4 again.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 4. Unstable as water.
Unstable as water. Now, make a note. The unstable as water means that they will be wanderers. That's what that means. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not excel.
They will not excel. Go on.
Because thou wentest up to thy father's bed,
Go on.
then defiled thou it. He went up to my couch.
And this is why, when they tried to have victory over the white man at that time, and this particular white man was Andrew Jackson. When Andrew Jackson was first sent down to the Florida Everglades, he was told to go and fight the Indians. This is a communal phrase, but it is actual in its content. And he wrote back. He said, "I'm down here trying to find the Indians, but all I'm coming across are Negroes.
God.
Because he didn't know that the Negro and the Seminole Indians are one and the same. And so Andrew Jackson at the time, he ended up slaughtering and subduing a great deal of them. The date of that for your historical records is 1829 through to 1837. 1829 through to 1837. Now, if we may go back to the book, Black Indians, we're going to read page 60.
God.
And we're going to read the highlighted section, and there's a lot of reading, so we're going to stop it intermittently, but there's a lot of reading that we have to go through.
God.
So we're going to also go back to the pictures, because some of the pictures will tie into some of the things we're going to read. So, not there, sir, it's at page 60. All right, let's go. Begin reading, if you please.
Before this conflict was over, the United States had fought its most costly Indian war, spending over $40 million and losing 1,500 soldiers.
Read.
And many civilians. They battled an enemy, one U.S. officer called bold, active, and armed.
So they called the Indians bold, and they were active, and they were armed. They'd never fought anyone like that before. This is where they became aware of a certain style of fighting that was called guerrilla warfare. Read.
The black Seminoles, more desperate than Indians, in December 1836, General Sidney Thomas Jessup, who had recently assumed command of the U.S. forces, decided, "This, you may be assured, is a Negro and not an Indian war."
You see that? They called it a Negro. What did they say? Repeat that.
"This, you may be assured, is a Negro and not an Indian war."
Because they wanted to change the phraseology. It was Indian all along, but they wanted to create a distinction between the two. Read, sir.
General Jessup became the first commander to recognize the crucial role black Seminoles played in the nation.
Read.
Throughout my operations, I found the Negroes the most active and determined warriors.
Go on.
And during the conferences with the Indian chief, I ascertained that they exercised an almost controllable influence over them.
Go on.
General Jessup first tried to destroy this alliance by assaulting black Seminole villages.
Go on.
And holding their women and children hostage.
Go on.
He promised Creek mercenaries plunder, meaning captured blacks who could be sold as slaves.
Because what they were doing, they were mixing up the bloodline. They were capturing certain Seminole Indians and calling them Negro. You see? Because remember that what you have been taught in history is that they brought in all of the blacks that were here, came in here from Africa, and there were no blacks that were here, but the Indians that were here were red people. That's a lie. There never has been red people. I'm sorry, you were declaring something.
This is the lie. This is what this is.
Got you. Okay, go ahead. So what I want you to see now is this, that the whole argument of the history of America has been designed to take away your franchise-ship. You have rights to America. Johanna, you have a stake in America.
Con.
But if that was to be made public and made assured, America would go under, because they would have to pay you back, not just you, but you and all of your descendants,
Con.
for the land that they have taken from you
Con.
and now call their own. All of your people who were here originally, the land that was theirs, they'd have to pay you for it, and give you all back money that goes all the way back. America can't do it. If America does it, America will fall apart.
True.
So the only way they can do it is to say that, pardon the expression, I hope I don't offend anyone, niggers are niggers, we put them over there. Indians are Indians, we put them over there. We separate them. And that's why they have very cleverly separated us into Indians, Negroes, Espanol, Mexicans. Because if they do that and then make sure that none of them get to know about each other, none of them get to know that you are indeed family, you are indeed same bloodline. And remember, a scientist found out when he checked the bloodline of the Mexicans and checked the bloodlines of the true Indians and of the Negroes, it said, oh, the bloodline, it's the same people. Their bloodline all go back to only one father. And they're wondering, how could that be possible? It said the reason why the Mexican blood was better because it's got a great deal of European blood in it. You see? But the only bloodline that they couldn't argue was the black Indians and the Negroes. It was purer than the Mexicans. And what did they do to separate us even more? They gave all of them different religious perspectives. They gave the Negro Christianity. They gave the Mexicans Catholicism. You see? And then they gave the Indians another version. But they gave them all separate religious base, so they keep them all separate and built on that. And that's why, as a nation of people, we have no desire to come together. That's why, remember what we just read, when we read Genesis, it said, gather yourselves together and hear. That word that you're reading here in Genesis 49 and verse 2, gather yourselves together and hear, is the same thing you'll hear. In fact, tell me, Isaiah, where do we find that in, he won't, he has to find it. Find me the scripture that says, gather yourself together, for all nation not desired. Find that for me, and you will see that the whole purpose of all this is to divide us. Now, you just saw an image of a black Indian, a chieftain. And these images exist because they can't hide them. Because the white man is so vain, what does he do? He also has this perspective that he wants to keep certain histories because it's just too rich. We just can't destroy it. It's too rich. The Indians, I know they're black, but we can't destroy it because they're just too rich. I mean, look at them. Look at the royalty. Look at their feathers on their feather crowns, because those are called crowns, by the way. Because a chief is considered to be a king. In the Bible, it tells you that, but we won't deal with that this week. We'll deal with that next week. What have you got for me?
Grace and peace, sir. Zephaniah 2 and 1.
Very good. Zephaniah 2 and 1. Let's read.
That's the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2 and verse 1.
Read.
Gather yourself together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
O nation what?
Not desired.
O nation not desired.
God.
You finish?
Finish.
All right. So we see then that the scriptures is still warning us, still edifying us that we must gather ourselves together.
God.
Con? All right, let's go back and read where you left off.
Yes, sir. In 2 months, his troops seized 131 blacks.
They did what?
Seized 131 blacks.
They seized 131 blacks. Go on.
Mostly women and children.
Read.
When his men stormed Osceola's headquarters in January 1837, the chief personal bodyguard was captured.
Read.
Of the 55 men, 52 were black.
52 were what?
Black.
Black. Go on.
Osceola escaped, but illness would end his life in a year.
Go on. Read on.
By 1837, Osceola had become the leader of black and red resistance to
Now notice what they do. They put in there black and what?
And red.
And red. The audacity of them. Have you ever seen a red person? Please tell me. The Most High has given me blessings. I've traveled to many, many countries. I have never in all of my life seen a red person. The only red person that I've ever come across is a so-called white person who is so sunburnt he looks like a lobster. He's the only red person I've ever seen, but apart from seeing a red person standing up looking red like this, never seen one. They don't exist. The only existence of a red person is a so-called white man. When he's embarrassed, he goes red. When he's too hot, he goes red. When he's slapped in the face, he goes red. When he falls down and bumps his head, he goes red. No, in fact, when he bumps his head, he becomes colored. Because he goes black, green, yellow, and blue. All right. Read on, sir.
Yes, sir. Black and red resistance to U.S. slaveholders.
Read, sir.
While the Seminole nation as a whole showed signs of division,
Read.
those who rode with Osceola, such as Wildcat, were prepared to defend their black brothers and sisters to the death.
See, that was part of our nature. We died defending our people. That's why, to this very day, to show you how well tamed they have us, George Floyd, if our original brothers were on the earth, would never have died. Read on for me, please.
Since General Jessup's military operations had not captured one significant Seminole leader
Go on.
to negotiate with, he worried that his plans would backfire.
Go on.
That black Seminoles will lead the nation in full-scale warfare.
See, now they use the term black Seminoles because they were always black. They were nothing but black. Read.
Worse still, he feared his policies might drive armed black Seminoles to recruit plantation slaves.
Go on.
And throw the countryside into disorder. He believed that Seminole warriors have fought as long as they had life through the influence of the leading Negro.
Because what they were afraid of, that once, this is why they never let the slaves off the plantation yard. And if they did, they only took one. And usually the one that they took was a Yesem, black one. Because they didn't want the other slaves hearing about the fact that they saw Indians that were black wandering around freely. That's why they were very careful. A lot of the movies don't really show that because they try to give you a balanced view from their perspective. Because even the movies are not true because they're designed to still keep our minds incarcerated to a certain way of thinking. Read on, sir.
For him, the key to all negotiations became the black Seminoles.
Go on, read.
Under their own leaders, Negro Abraham and John Horace Alcohia, and in concert with Chief Osceola
Go on.
and Wildcat, black Seminoles pursued their own strategy.
Read.
Wear down the U.S. armed might until compromise was possible.
Was what?
Was possible.
Go on.
Finally, on March 6, 1837, both sides signed a treaty granting that Seminoles keep their Negroes, their bona fide property,
Go on.
and shall accompany them to the West. Jessup, despite pressure from U.S. slaveholders and their political figures, felt he had no choice. The Negroes ruled the Indians.
The Negroes did what?
Ruled the Indians.
The Negroes what?
Ruled the Indians.
All right. So now you're seeing a true perspective. By the way, these are white people who wrote these books. They're letting you know how history was. Con? All right. To just finish up that division, and then we'll move on. Go ahead.
And it is important that they should feel themselves secure. If they should become alarmed and hold out, the war will be resumed.
The war will be resumed. Now, the next book that I want us to hit on is this particular book, which is called, just before, this book here, for some of you online, I believe we have a picture of it in the files there, but this is the book here. This is the Native Americans, right? Now, with this particular book, notice what they did, and let me come back. You've got to see how cleverly they've done this. What do you notice the white man has done? Huh? They've made him red to keep with their narrative. When have you ever seen a person look like this? But yet we buy this thought. Thank you. We buy that thought, you see. There's no man who looks like that. And you notice how they made his nose a little bit more European. Now remember, you've seen the pictures of the black Seminoles. And you see they have very Negroid features. Because remember, that is who we are. We are Negroid. By the way, the word Negroid, or even nigger, is not a bad word. Did you know that? Oh, all right. Tell me why. Can anyone? All right. And Adrian? Grace and peace, sir.
Black.
It means black, yes, but it means a little bit more than just black. That's all right, because you got the first part. Anybody else? And does anyone else know what the word Negro means? Well, let me see if I can find something here for you and get this out to you. The word Negro. Anybody? Anyone? Say again. Niger. To some degree, it does, but no, there's more to it. If I settle and say yes, I'm going to mislead you. I don't want to mislead you. So, anything else? Anything else? Notice I'm not putting you under any pressure. I just want you to see if you know. I'm sending you something now of But does anyone have any idea? It actually means, it has something to do with God. Any clues there? You should proceed with it. But does anyone have any? Anyone? The word nigger is more to do with something about God than it is to do with just being that. Does anyone online have the information? I've excluded them. Shame on me. Does anyone know? Has more to do with something to do with God than it has to do with anything else. You see, we've been taught that it's and because it's being used as a derogatory term, it tends to cause people to shy away from it. But it actually, back in the day, meant something. And believe it or not, we are still that person. We are the children of the Father. And it has more to do with that. I won't give it away right away because, again, I need that to kind of brew over in your mind a little bit because it will challenge you. But could you quickly send that information I just sent you, ma'am? I just want to prove the point about this was something online which I found very interesting when I pulled it. And I want you to see that they are always trying to steal our image. They're always trying to steal who we are and what we look like and what we represent. So when we have that, And what I want to do, I'm going to get back to the lesson. All right. So, so if you could go to First Chronicles chapter 5 and 18. First Chronicles chapter 5 and verse 18. First Chronicles chapter 5 and verse 18.
Con, we're there.
Let me know when it's done.
I have it, Pastor. I can pull it up now.
Okay. All right, so let's read First Chronicles chapter 5 and verse 18.
This is the book of First Chronicles, chapter 5 and verse 18. The sons of Reuben.
The sons of who?
Of Reuben.
The sons of Reuben, go on.
And the Gadites.
The Gadites.
And half the tribe of Manasseh.
Go on.
Of valiant men.
Valiant men, go on.
Able to bear buckler and sword.
Able to do what?
Bear buckler.
Bear buckler, go on.
And sword.
Go on.
And to shoot with bow and skillful in war were 40,000.
And what?
And 40,703 score.
Now, again, these are our Seminoles. Quickly go to Isaiah 65 and 11. Read. Isaiah 65 and 11. Read for me.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse 11. But ye are they that forsake the Lord.
Did what?
That forsake the Lord.
Go on.
And that forget my holy mountain.
And did what?
And forget my holy mountain.
Go on.
That prepare a table for that troop. And that furnish the drink offering unto that number.
Go on.
Therefore will I number you to the sword.
I will number you to the sword. Go on.
And ye shall all bow down to the slaughter.
And you shall do what?
All bow down to the slaughter.
Go on.
Because when I called, ye did not answer.
You did not what?
You did not answer.
You did not answer. Go on.
When I spake, ye did not hear, but did evil before mine eyes.
But you continued with evil before thine eyes. Read.
And did choose that wherein I delighted not.
And you chose the very thing that he has no delight in.
Come.
All right. Go to First Chronicles chapter 12 and 8. Chapter 12 and 8.
Yes, sir. It's the book of First Chronicles, chapter 12 and verse 8.
Now we're going to be revisiting these scriptures because they have meaning to all of our brethren going down the road. Now let's read.
Yes, sir. This is the book of First Chronicles, chapter 12 and verse 8.
Read.
And the Gadites there separated themselves unto David.
Read.
And to the whole, to the wilderness men of might and men of war.
So these were men of might, men that were strong, men that were fit for war. Read.
Fit for the battle.
Read.
That could handle shield and buckler.
Shield and buckler, go on.
Whose faces were like the faces of lions.
Stop. Now, who could tell me what is that saying? What is that referring to? Their faces were like faces of lions. Anyone? Go ahead.
I'll try. They had beards.
No.
No. Okay.
No, they had beards, but that's all right. That's good. No, but what? Yes, sir.
It's just saying that they had courage, like they were ready to go fight.
No. Read that clause again, sir.
Yes, sir. This is First Chronicles 12 and 8.
I want you to read from where it says that they could handle shield and buckler.
Yes, sir. That could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions.
What does that mean? Yes, sir.
The tribe of Judah?
No. Go ahead.
They were like royalty, but they were still fighters,
No.
soldiers.
It said that their faces were like, whose faces were like the faces of lions. Anyone? Anyone? Yes, please.
I'm taking it literally that they could take scratches and they would just they were resilient in the fact that
All right, let me give you a clue. What do Indians do before they go to war? Go ahead, Sandra.
They put on their war paint.
War paint. They would mark their face up, and they would look like lions. Remember the images that we saw earlier, where you could see their hair and how they looked, and then with their face, they look like tigers and lions and wild beasts. It put fear into the men because they'd never seen that before. They'd never seen men marked up like that. Now remember, it's in the scriptures. It's in the scriptures that they had war paint. Now the reason why, again, this is not taught within the so-called Christian church, because if they have to teach it, it comes mighty close to those who are Indians over here.
Mm-hmm.
They can't teach this. It will separate their churches, cause problems. They won't do that. Yes, please. Are you noticing that? So they had war paint. So read it again, sir.
Yes, sir. That could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions,
War paint, go on.
and were as swift as the roes upon the mountain.
They could run swiftly to and fro. No challenges. Now, the images that's just on the screen there, read from the top, sir.
Yes, sir. The whitewashing of the Limba tribe.
So you notice, the Limba tribe are those, that man, that African, that South African, in the bottom left-hand side of the picture, right?
Con.
Look at what they have on the other side. Read the other side, sir, first, the so-called white side.
Yes, Limba, the lost tribe of Zimbabwe.
Really? White people? Lost tribe? Do me a favor. And look how they're showing that white guy with a spear in his hand. Are you giving what? Which country do you go to this very day where you will see a white guy with markings on his face, straight hair, and some silly paint? Unless he's in a Hollywood production.
Con.
But I can take you, I could take you to some places over in Africa where there are some brethren over there who will have spears, by the way, and will be tall and will have certain markings on their face. Read the other side, sir.
Yes, sir. The Limba, the lost tribe of Israel in southern Africa.
In southern Africa, see? That's where they are. But the white man is constantly trying to take our place. That's why it's called replacement theology. They're trying to put themselves in our positions. These people are not easy. Read the top again just one more time.
The whitewashing of the Limba tribe Israelites.
You can leave it. Go ahead.
There's a few questions online
Yes, please.
regarding the Indians. First question, how did they get straight hair? I thought our people had hair like wool.
Right. The answer, repeat that so that...
How did they get straight hair? I thought our people had hair like wool.
Yes. All the phenotypes of hair runs through our bloodline, all of them. That's why you will notice when our children are born, some of them are born with straight hair that over time gets curly. Some, it stays straight for a longer time before it gets curly down the road. I went to school with young boys that were as dark as me that had straight hair. I went to school with them, dark-skinned boys, and I knew some girls who also had that. And as they grew older, their hair became more curly. You see? Now, but all the back to the answer of the question of our person, all of the phenotypes of looks and hair run through our bloodline. You could find in the kingdom, and by the way, the same way all the phenotypes of hair run through our bloodline, it's the same as all the colors. That's why in our people, we have people who will go from very dark to very light. The scripture speaks of even David, who was dark-skinned, but he was more ruddy. See? So even with that, and by the way, in case you haven't seen it, I've been blessed to see some dark-skinned people that when you look at them, their skin, this is over in Africa, by the way, they look red. Their black skin looks red. I kid you not, looks red. Why? Because it runs through our bloodline, all of them. There's a second question.
Yes. Second question. So where does the red dot on the forehead of Indians come from?
The red dot.
I think they're referring to the...
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. Step back now. Step back. All right. What I want you to understand that those are normally people who are Hindus. And what they do, when I've been to India, and I've been there several times, they put their hand in red ink and put it on the forehead of a child because it denotes their sect, what sect of religion they belong to. There are some who are Sikhs. That whole Sikh that they talk about, it's a representation that comes from our bloodline. They've taken that from us, where we have what's known as Nazarite laws, where some, they never put a scissors in their hair, never cut their hair. Unless it's on certain occasions, they will cut their hair to prepare themselves for a particular time, and then they'll let the hair grow back again. Those are Nazarite oaths. And the Sikhs have adopted that. They have copied that. Because when I've asked them, when I've traveled there and I've asked them, I said to them, yes. And I've traveled there and I've asked them, I said, where did all that come? They say, this is what they've said. They said that because we were Persians. Some of them know that they were Persian. The so-called, what we call Elamites, which are we call Pakistani or Indian. Their bloodline goes back to the Persians. They were the Persians. And they have said that this goes back to when they, goes as far back as when they were, they said we were in Africa, some of them say. Well, it really wasn't Africa. They just meant the closest borders going into Africa. You see? So that's where that red dot comes from. That's not a natural thing that they have. Okay? That's all painted on. All right. Anything else? All right. Okay. Now, the image that we have here shows you, this is what they used to sell. They would sell these images of the Indians of America. And you would find that from some of the presidents of the United States going back into the 1700s, 1800s, they had images like this that was inside their living rooms, showing a chief, black, with a feathered crown on his head, and so on. When you look at the so-called tobacco Indian, that tobacco Indian would be black. You see? So this shows you that they know that the Indians were black. Because they were selling ornaments like this all over the world.
Yeah.
Why is it that it has changed? It's because the politics have changed. All right? Okay, now let's get back on track. Again, I accept all questions from online, so please don't hesitate to bring your questions. Now, what I want you to do, sir, I want you to please go to the book Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. Lost Tribes and Promised Land. I believe I sent you a cover of that so that our viewers can see what that book looks like, and you can still get a copy of it. I want you to go to page 363.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right? Let me see. Which side is page 63?
This is 60.
Oh, very good. So I want to start at the top. I want you to read all the way through. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Listen very carefully, if you please.
This is the book, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, The Origins of American Racism by Ronald Sanders. It reads, in September 1644, a Portuguese Moreno named Antonio de Montesinos.
Right. Now, Montesinos was one of those explorers who went into South America, and he was a Morano, which simply means that he had been converted into Judaism. So he was like a proselyte. Let's go.
Arrived in Amsterdam after having lived for some years in South America.
Go on.
And proceeded to tell the leaders of the recently established Jewish community there a story that caused them to think of him as a latter-day Eldad and Danite. 2.5 years before, he told them, while traveling in the wild mountains of Quito, he had heard some of his Indian guides remark that the natives of that country deserved all the suffering they had undergone at the hands of the Spaniards. When he asked them to explain why they thought such a thing, they had replied mysteriously that it was because we so badly mistreated our holy people, the greatest in the world. Nothing more had been offered by them on this point. But later in the same conversation, Francisco, one of the Indian guides, had declared that his countrymen would be avenged upon the Spaniards in time anyway, by means of a people now hidden. The two references apparently were to the same people, but Montesinos, not seeing their full meaning in that moment, had put the whole matter out of mind for the time being. Upon his return to Cartagena, and utilizing Montesinos, had found himself accused by the Inquisition and put in prison. Praying for salvation in his cell one day, he was reciting what was by then a standard formula among the New World Morenos. Blessed by the name of the Lord, who had not made me an idler, a barbarian, a Negro, an Indian, when suddenly be stopped. Those Indians, he told himself, they are Hebrews. Pondering his thought incredulously, and yet with growing conviction, he resolved that if he ever was released, he would seek out the Indian Francisco and try to learn the truth. Montesinos' story, unclear as to the circumstances of his incarceration, is equally unclear as to those of his release. But released he was, and he immediately went to Francisco, revealed himself as a Jew. Montesinos proclaimed the conviction that Francisco's hidden people were of the same race as he. Would Francisco lead him to them, the two men were soon back in the rugged mountains in which Francisco had made his initial revelation, marching relentlessly for a week before they finally came to a halt. It was a Saturday. Montesinos make a point of telling us, and they had come to a river larger than the Douro. As their echoes of the Sambutan, and all of this, here Francisco announced, is where your brothers will be seen.
Read.
Waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke from beyond the other bank of the river. In response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared, bearing 3 women and a woman, 3 men and a woman, all of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge.
Read.
The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. She then turned to her male companions to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment, said, Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, Elohim, Adonai Ehud. Hear, O Israel, and the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism,
Which is the Shema. Go on.
A brief conversation then ensued in their common ancestral tongue, according to Montesinos, whose fluency in it is almost as perplexing to the reader of his narrative as it is that of his 3 mysterious new companions. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben.
Read.
And that tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby.
So they were telling him that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. Now, the ones that he's speaking about is the tribe of Manasseh, which today are the Cubans, and the tribe of Ephraim, which today are the Puerto Ricans.
God.
Read.
The day when they were at last to issue forth into the world was coming soon. They explained, but in the meantime, they could not allow visitors to cross over to them. They were willing to make an exception in the near future. However, on account of their need for education, for though they spoke Hebrew, they could not read or write it. Would Montesinos send them 12 bearded men to be their teachers? He said he would. The 4 strangers returned to their canoe, paddled back across the river, and disappeared from view.
Read.
Francisco told Montesinos all he knew about these people from his own traditions. His ancestors, to their eternal shame, had indeed made war on them and persecuted them.
Go on.
Only the sorcerers of his tribe had perceived them. They were a special people and had given warning that they should be left alone.
Go on.
The God of these children of Israel is the true God.
Read that again.
The God of these children of Israel is the true God, they had said. And everything inscribed on their tablets is true. At the end of the day.
Stop for a moment.
Yes, sir.
It said everything on their tablet is true. Now remember, he just done said that they can't write it. You see, but that's not true. You got to always remember that some of these individuals, when they were writing these discourses, they would sometimes contradict themselves, because our people have always written on tablets. Why do you think they found tablets with Hebrew writings on them right up to Arizona? They found them in Mexico. They found them in South America. These are tablets that our people wrote on. So when they say that we couldn't write, that's a lie, because we've always kept records. Here's the other thing to bear in mind, in case anyone think I'm making this up. You go to the Smithsonian, you will find tablets that are from South America as well as Central America that are in there that has Hebrew writings on them. How is that found here and not over there? It's because the Hebrews were here. The Jews were here. Read, sir.
At the end of the days, there will be lords of all the nations of the earth.
Oh, you got to read all that again, doctor, because that's just too sweet to my ears just to read over once. Read it, sir.
At the end of the days.
No, go back a few more paragraphs. Let's flow that in.
Yes, sir. The God of these children of Israel
Good.
is the true God.
Read.
They had said, and everything inscribed on their tablets is true.
Is what?
Is true.
Read.
At the end of the days, they will be lords of all the nations of the earth.
So at the end of days, which means the end of an age or the end of time, they will be lords again of all the earth. Read, sir.
One nation will come bringing many things to this land.
Now, one nation. What is that nation? That is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That's the nation who then comes over, who are the slaves, who mix themselves with the people that were originally here, and that's the nation it's speaking about. Go ahead, sir.
And after we have all been provided for, these children of Israel will go forth from where they now are and reign over the whole earth.
So where we now are, which is here, we will go forth from here and reign all over the earth. A white man wrote that.
God.
So if we had wrote that, you could argue the fact that, we're doing it in our favor. But they wrote that from their own words, from how they were led. Read.
Reign over the whole earth as they once did.
As we once did. Going back to the golden age of Solomon and David. Continue, sir.
With this final flourish, Montezino had turned his tale of the lost tribes into a bit of propaganda.
Exactly. So what happened was, now, after he had wrote all of this and it was recorded and it's now in history, he realized he could make a whole lot of money from this if he reneges on what he had written. And they paid him much money for him to take back. But it was too late because the written part of it had already gone out and become well publicized throughout the world of that time. You see? And then now, it was too late because all of the so-called propaganda that he tried to make of it, to make some money, to make a living from it, it frizzled out. Because he was trying to what they call it, when you want to make money on something whilst the opportunity is there, monopolize, that's right. And that's what he was trying to do, and he couldn't do it. See? Let's drop that now. What page are you on there, sir?
365.
365?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So I want you to drop that now. Let's quickly go back, if you please, and make a note of this. Please make a note of this. I said it before. So the tribe of Joseph is Manasseh and Ephraim. Who is Manasseh? I just told you. Who? The Cubans. Who is Ephraim? The Puerto Ricans. What does the word Puerto Rican mean? All right. Go ahead, sir.
Puerto Rico is like rich port.
Go ahead, sir.
Rich port.
Rich port. All right. If you try staying awake, doctor, you'll know what I'm talking about. All right. All right. So it means rich port. Okay. Rich port. Now, the word Cuban. In fact, let's see. That's all right. We'll hold in just a little bit more for that. Okay. Do we have any questions online? I'm going to make sure that I keep the online people involved, because I said I'm being very laid back and very slow in my approach. I want everyone to get the favor of this, okay? All right. So we recognize that there are tablets that are in the museums that show that these things are so. This is no makeup. This is no misleading by information. This is all a fact. Whenever you hear them say that we as a people did things verbally, that's a lie. Israel has always kept records. That's why we have books like the Chronicles, because it chronicalizes. The word chronicle is to write. So it chronicalizes First and Second Chronicle, chronicalizes all of the kings of Israel. See? So we kept records. Now, the reason why a lot of our records went because when they burnt our cities and they took our city, they burnt everything because their belief was slaves don't need records. All they need to know is that you're a slave. And when they led us away from our countries, we couldn't take anything with us but ourselves. You notice that? All right. So now let's get back to the scriptures, please.
Yes, sir.
Let's get back. Let's read, if you please, verse 4, Genesis 49 and verse 4.
This book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 4, it reads, unstable as water.
Unstable as water, go on.
Thou shalt not excel.
So they were not going to excel. Go on.
Because thou wentest up to thy father's bed,
Go on.
then defilest thou it.
Go on.
He went up to my couch.
Read verse 5.
Simeon and Levi,
Simeon and who?
and Levi
And Levi
are brethren.
are who?
Are brethren.
Are brethren. Now you have to recognize how it's written. For the longest time, but before I understood what I understand now, I didn't quite figure out what this was saying. But the reasons why it's important for you to notice here, you notice it says, it doesn't say Reuben and Simeon, it doesn't say Levi and Judah, but you'll notice it says Simeon and Levi, right? And those are the things you mustn't overlook. Because the scriptures is written in such a way to keep you focused on what it's trying to tell you. So now when it says, now verse 5, when it says, Simeon and Levi are brethren. Right? Semicolon. And it's making it clear to us. Is that colon or semicolon?
Semicolon.
It's semicolon.
Semicolon, yes.
Because now it's giving us some facts for you to think on. Now watch what it says next. Read.
Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation.
So it says, these two, you have instruments of cruelty that is within your bloodline. Now, why are they in that position? Can anyone tell me? Let's see who's a bright student among you. Please don't shout it out. Just put your hand up so we can make sure everything's done decently in order. Go ahead, sir.
First of all, it's because they went and they took out the guy that raped their sister. And he had told them not to do that.
Okay.
He didn't tell them not to do it.
That's one part. But you're going into history, which is good. But I'm dealing with their present day. Why does it also allude to them present day? All right. Which nations are they today? How would they be classified? Yes, sir. You, sir. Yes.
Yes. Today, Simeon is the nation that we call Dominican Republic.
Come on.
And the Levites are the nation that we call Haitians. And the Simeons, because their president back, they was at war with the Haitians back during the president 1930s. And they destroyed each other.
Right. So the little history there shows you that they are, in fact, the people of the island that was once called Espanol. But the island that you see, that's called the Dominican Republic, was called Espanol. It was called one name. And now, then it was called later Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo. Now, And also, it is also known as Haiti. Now, why is it called Haiti and Santo Domingo? Why is it called that? Go ahead, sir.
Because they had come to agreement, the French and the Spanish.
Good. That's all I need for now. Because you'll notice that it's two brothers. They're split because of who was over them. The French, who was over the Haitians, and the Spaniards, who were over the Dominican side, which is Santo Domingo. So today, they call it what? What do they call the island today? Go ahead, sir.
Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic, which really includes all of them. Come on. Now, what is one of the major things that they are into over there? Both of them, not just one side. People always like to push it on one side, but they're both into this. What are they into? Can anyone say? Do you know, Doctor? Go ahead.
Voodoo.
They're into voodoo, witchcraft. It is what has affected both sides of the island. Voodoo and witchcraft. Now, let's go back and read it again, if you please. Read verse 5 again.
This is the book of Genesis 49 and 5. Simeon and Levi are brethren.
Mm-hmm.
Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation.
Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. Go on.
Oh, my soul.
So they share the same island, so they are the one tribe, or the two tribes that share one island. So you have one side belongs to one brother, the other side belongs to the other brother. And when you go there, you'll notice that one side, which is the French side, they are darker than the other side, which are the Spanish side. Which shows you that the side of the Dominican, they give themselves to their Spanish what's the other term that they use for when somebody takes over a country? What do they call them? What do they call it? Colonizer, that's it. That's the word I want. We're colonizers. So, and one thing that you'll find, and the first time I went there was many, many years ago, well over 30 years ago. The first time I went there, the thing that disappointed me the most was how easy the women were to put themselves with white Spanish men. It was so sickening for me to see.
Yes.
And you will find that many of them came from these, from Spain, and they knew that they would, if they came on a vacation over to the Dominican, they knew that they were going to have the black woman would throw themselves at them. That's why you'll find on the Dominican side a lot of brighter skinned Dominicans. Whereas on the Asian side, they are darker skin. The brothers and the women over there are still quite dark in their skin color. See? Now there's a historical reason behind that, because the French hated the fact that they rose up against them. And remember, the storyline goes that even when Napoleon came over there after they had their uprising, and he tried to bring the land back into control. Toussaint, who was the leader at the time, he outwitted Napoleon and beat him at his own game. And Napoleon has always, it's historically clear that Napoleon has always hated black people. And that's why at schools, when they teach these things, when I was young, it was known, it was a common knowledge when I was young, especially at the school that I went to, that when they spoke about Napoleon, that he was a devil. And when the black kids in the school would say some horrible things about Napoleon, you would get detention. And they would keep you in detention until you said something different about him. Well, to the lake where they keep you in detention as long as you want. And here's the thing that you have to be aware of. In fact, read that for me, please, since you have it out.
This is Napoleon when he was fighting Haiti. My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Santo Domingo, Haiti, is not so much based on consideration of commerce and money as on the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world. Napoleon Bonaparte.
No, he did not want blacks to ever hold any position in the world. He believed in the stories that the black man was once the conquerors of the world. He believed in it. But he would not make it a public spectacle so that everyone would say, because his word carried some weight. Because remember, he made himself Lord King. He was a self-made king. In fact, he made himself an emperor over France. And later became a usurper. But here's the thing that you have to understand about him. When he first, just to put Santo Domingo out of it just for a quick moment so you get some history. When he first went to Egypt and he saw the Sphinx and he saw the pyramids, he was so angered by that, he had his men bring the cannons and blew the noses off of all of the faces of the kings, so that there was no nose on them.
Right.
In fact, France to this very day still has the noses of several of the Sphinx that they blew up and took back to France with them. They have them to this very day. Take my word for it, brah. They have it. Those sons of Belial, I knew what you thought I was going to say. Those sons of Belial, they did that. And they did it because he said there is no way that these people could have built this type of unique, there's a term that he used, the word escapes me right now. He just couldn't believe, he couldn't accept that black minds built all of this. Because he said that this is something out of this world. He said, and black people could not have built this. The Valley of the Kings, if you've ever been there and you've seen the Valley of the Kings, it is maybe one of the, it should be, if it isn't, it should be one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is spectacular. Even in its ruins, it still looks like, you could see what it could have looked like back in its day. The pyramids, he said, and all the pyramids, he stood there, he had his architects, he had his astrologers out, and they worked it out, and they said that there's no way that these things could be pinpointed to the stars, and when they worked it out, every single one of the pyramids were pinpointed to the stars. And they didn't know how they did it. So, guess what the Egyptologists did? You know what the Egyptologists did? They said that it was aliens from out of space came and gave them the technology. To this very day, brothers and sisters, there is no equipment that is designed that could build a pyramid. That's why they've never done it. Because remember, the white man always tries to rebuild. Why do you think the white man is the Greek, the white man is the Roman? Why do you think when you look at many of the buildings in Washington, they all resemble of the Roman architecture over there?
Right.
All of them, going all the way back to Brunelleschi, was one of the architectural designs of its time. And notice what they've done. In Washington, they have Egyptian obelisk. They call it the Washington Monument. They have all these other buildings that have columns. These are all buildings that they've copied back there. The one thing that they've never been able to copy was a pyramid. And even in France, when they tried to do it, remember France, he blew up everything. Guess what they did? In the art center, they have glass pyramids because they could not build stone pyramids. They do not have the art. To this very day, they have no equipment that could move that tonnage of rock to put them in place. They don't know how. So why that's so important for you to understand is because it will let you understand the greatness, and we won't touch that this week, the greatness of the Incas and the Mayans and the Aztecs, how they built their pyramids in South America, who were black people. They show all these movies where they show them as being bright-skinned people. Nonsense. They were all black. Con? All right. So I hope that helps to give you some understanding of our people. And that's why when you read here and it speaks about Simeon and Levi, they were caught up into witchcraft. Now, let's go to the book that we have so that we can help you to understand. The book that we have is the Haitian, Haiti Feeding of the Spirit, if you please. Let's go there. It's a book, it's this book here. We have a copy that we put up on the screen for you, for those of you that you can have that. Now we're going to pull some pictures from this and we're going to talk a little bit about them. This is the last area that we will touch because, again, we're only dealing with 3 tribes today. So I think we're doing good for time, but we'll be finished shortly. All right. Do we have any questions before I go into that? Any questions at all? Anyone? Very good. So what I want you to notice here is this. The Haitians and the Dominicans, they are completely involved in witchcraft, even though they are involved in Catholicism. They're involved in witchcraft. Now, I don't want to offend any of our Haitian listeners who are today here in America. I don't want you to be offended by this, because I mean no offense. Because you who are Haitians, who are here in America right now, I want you to know that you are of the bloodline of the children of Israel. Don't let all that Haitian stuff, that's unfortunate, because we all have come through some degradation because of our fall by not keeping the commandments. The Haitians are no different, and the Dominicans are no different. That's why every year, we were over there last year, and we're going over there again this year in December. We have a group over there right now, and we're going to expand upon that group, Yah willing. And our whole objectivity is to win and to get a school going out there that can help to bring those people who are our people back to the truth of the word of the Most High God. This image that you see here, you'll notice that it's pitched in the Catholicism, as you can see, and the worship of Mary and so on, and Santa Maria and all of those things. And you'll notice the color of the individual that the dark-skinned man is kneeling to. You see, that's the devil. Now, someone would turn around and say, well, you can't call every, I can. They're the devil. Because everywhere they go, they kill. Everywhere they go, they take. And everywhere they go, somebody is going to lose their life. And no one is going to bring them to justice. If you go back and see what the CIA has done throughout South America and all of the African countries, you'll know that this country, it has to be destroyed. Because they've got blood on their hands. So let's go to the next one. All of the pictures that pertain to this particular file here, let's go through all of that, if you please. Now there are some, the ones that are misrepresented in terms of their position. I'll turn that around. Thank you very much. Now, this image here that you see is an image of a black man who's covered in in dirt and in feces and running through the street. Feces is a part of that witchcraft worship. They cover themselves in feces and they'll run through the street and so on. Let's go. In fact, let's see if we can read that. It just mentions Port-au-Prince and so on.
Yes. But
But the date is important. This picture was taken back in 1986. Now, are things still the same? Yes. To some degree, it's still the same. It has never really changed. Some have moved to better areas, but things are still relatively the same. Let's go to the next slide if we can. All right, so let me know when it's there because my head is down here. You can let me know.
yes, sir.
All right, this particular image here is an image of the family.
Yes.
Look how beautiful that family is. Father with good-looking man, with good-looking boys, and they wallpaper their room with posters. And this is the life that they live. Now, why is this so important? 'Cause I want you to understand, this is why many of our people who live there, they come to America hoping for a better life. But sometimes they find themselves in a position where sometimes they're called racist terms. The difference with where they live, they don't get called any racist term, but they can't live the way they want to live. And they get drawn into other things, you see? Let's keep going. And these are the way that society has set up. But bear this in mind, The Haiti, or the island of Santo Domingo, is maybe one of the richest islands. Don't get it twisted. It's one of the richest islands. But you know what? They rape the island. The Clintons went over there with the last disaster. The Clintons were rich. But with all the money that they made from it, they are today billionaires. How did they become billionaires? Through that country. That country. That's a fact. I'm not making this up. This picture that you're looking at here is them having their witchcraft worship. Notice what they're wearing. Notice how they're dressed. And they walk through the cities like that, certain times of the year. This is what they're doing. Keep going.
Isn't that reminiscent of that Baal?
Yes, it is. Because all of these things, they have a root. And the root goes back to how they were and how we were when we were over in our country. But as we read the scriptures, he said that he's going to scatter us across the plains of the earth. And as he scatters us, if we were going to improve, and we said, we read it, we're going to a land where no one is, and we will be able to keep the laws and statutes like we didn't do. We didn't do it. We came to America, we came to these other parts, we came to Jamaica, we came to Trinidad, we came to Puerto Rico, and what, did we do better? No. We're still sinful, still messed up. Let's go to the next slide of Simeon, please. But the Bible makes it very clear that we would be this type of personage. Right. So here we have we have them in the top section. It's a bit fuzzy, but that's only because that picture was taken with lots of movement, and when they're celebrating, there's lots of movement in it. The picture beneath shows them wearing like types of death masks and so on. Keep going. And whilst you're finding that, I want you to go to Genesis,
Yes, sir.
chapter 34, and have that in readiness for me.
Yes, sir.
Now, this picture you see here shows the youngsters getting involved in the celebration, and you'll see how our children get drawn into it too. the picture beneath that shows a man who's wrapped like a mummy, and again, what he has on is also covered in feces. You see? Part of the celebration, part of the worship, part of what they do. Let's keep going. All right, now, let me see.
Let's go.
Okay. So here, as you can see, they are in mud, and you'll notice how they're covered, and they're wallowing and washing themselves, and they're basically half naked. Their lower half is covered, but their upper regions is exposed, because that's part of the worship. And by the way, that's done by young and old, and the age of the old is irrelevant. Just keep going. And this is what this is how they serve, and they do this every year. It doesn't change, right? This is a young woman here, and you can see the depression that's on her, the hopelessness. But you see, and that's it. She's got across her back. She's beating herself. But that's because, you see, that's why we go there. That's why we go every year. When the Lord Most High opened up a door for us to go, we didn't know how we were going to do it. We're not a big ministry or a big camp, but the Most High made it possible. Myself and Ahaya and Johanna, we went out there and we walked miles, and we went into places where people felt like, well, we shouldn't go. We went, and when we went into those areas, and this is a much older woman, as you can see, in the same situation, washing herself, you know, because after they get wallowed in the mud, then they wash themselves on the waterfall. And whilst we were there in the square, we were teaching this Elamite who was there. He called the cops on us. And it wasn't just cops who came. Just hold the picture there, please. And it wasn't just cops who came. It was a squad of them. It was the chief of police who turned up. And he came, and we knew, because when a black car turns up, all the windows are blackened out. And he's sitting in the back seat. You know he's the bigwig. And then we find out that he's a chief of police. And the other jeeps that were there with their guys with their guns and all the rest of them. Because see, they couldn't understand how is it that we're wearing docker trousers, boots, and so on. But the only thing that we have is Bible. We have no guns, it's a Bible. And they're asking who we are. We say we're out here to teach our people who they are according to the scriptures, because these are the people of God. All these people here, they're the people of God according to scripture. And guess what he said? He said, yeah, I believe that. There's Johanna right there.
That's kind of true.
And then I asked him, I said, don't you believe in Jesus? I didn't say, yeah, how shall he doesn't know what how shall he? Don't believe it? Because, yeah, I believe in Jesus. And said, yeah, you're doing a good work. And then he said to us, if anyone troubles you, he said, here's my card,
That's
you
right.
call me.
Let us know. That's right.
We'll be there for you.
That's right.
And everybody's watching this.
Con.
And then after all that fiasco got finished, we're walking over another section. Now these young women walking up to us, so we know who you are. You're Hebrew Israelites. Am I lined up to?
No, you're not. So true.
So we had an impact when we went. Then we had brothers that stayed with us and corresponded with us for over a year, and looking forward for us coming back on this December. This is why we do it, because we have to reach our people.
Got to.
They're the 12 tribes. Yes, we could do this, a certain way, but the whole purpose of this is to make sure that our people are informed as to who they are. It's our job to do. Now, when you look at this particular picture, look at the color of the person who's representing the picture with a cross in his hand. The devil himself. Got some balancing scales, and look, they've got fruit in one. They've got drink in the other. They've got candles. They've got a voodoo doll at the top there with a candle. This is what's going on with our brothers. See, this is Simeon and Levi we're dealing with. Let's go to the next one. Now, this is a young woman who's, look, her shoes is completely worn out. And see, my heart breaks when I see this, because our people, we're not meant to be like this. We are royal people. And we have been brought so low. That's why I look forward to the day that the Most High God brings us back up high. I look forward to the day that we all can cry aloud, Kwam
Yasharella.
It moves my spirit, because we are Israel. Kwam Yasharella simply means rise, Israel. Rise, Israel, rise. Kwam Yasharella. Let's go to the next slide. That's okay. I know there's a slight delay. That's okay. Now, here's a picture of a young lady. Now, they have murals like this. And in the murals, what they do, they go and they take a picture in front of the mural, because they believe it gives them good luck or good fortune. And this is a young, good-looking the black girl here, standing in front of white Jesus. And that's why the Bible makes it, the scriptures makes it very clear that if Yahweh comes in, anyone comes in it, bearing any other image of who he is, you know that's a false one. That's why the book of Revelation lets us know what he looks like. That's why when people say color doesn't matter, of course it matters. If it did not matter, the Most High would not have had what Yahweh looks like in the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and 14.
He said it didn't matter, they wouldn't have changed it.
Of course they wouldn't have changed it. It matters because, and that's why they've changed all the pictures, changed all the paintings, they changed all the prophets. They were all black, they made them all white. Of course it matters. So in the Apocrypha, even Daniel tells us that he would wear out the saints and he would change times and traditions. I think this is the last one. All right, very good. All right, let's get back to this now. Let's finish this up. I want us to get back, reading verse 6.
This shares the book of Genesis, chapter 34 and verse 6.
No, I want you to read. We're coming to 34, but I want to read verse 49 and verse 6 first before we go there.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret.
Go on.
Unto their assembly mine honor.
Unto what?
Their assembly mine honor.
Go on.
Be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall.
The dig down a wall means that they destroyed a village. They destroyed, and let's prove that. They killed a man. Let's hold it there, please. We'll go back now to Genesis chapter 34 and verse 25. Genesis 34 and 25.
This is the book of Genesis 34 and 25. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of their sons of Jacob.
Now, let's bring some of you up to scratch, because some of you may not be aware of the story. Now, what happened was there was a particular king within a particular area of the land where they were residing in. And Jacob obviously came to an agreement with them, so Jacob could be there and dwell there with them. The young man who saw, in fact, go back to verse 1, please.
Verse 1 and 34.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is Genesis 34 and 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land.
Go on.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country,
So he was the prince of the country. Go on.
saw her. He took her and lay with her and defiled her.
And defiled her. Now, remember, that's part of the tradition. That you could see a woman and take the woman, and you could lie with the woman. That was part of that tradition. But you see, what they did was, they were operating by their tradition within people who have their own rules and statutes to abide by. Are you with me so far?
Come.
But read on.
And his soul clave unto Dinah.
And once he had laid with her, I mean, he loved her when he saw her, but he loved her even the more after he had laid with her. And then the scripture says, read.
The daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel.
Go on.
And Shechem spake unto
And
his Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife.
Go on.
And Jacob heard that he had defied Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come.
Read.
And Hamor, the son of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved.
Now remember, Levi and Simeon, or Simeon and Levi, that was their natural sister. That was their sister with their mother, their father Jacob. Are you understanding this? That's why they felt it even the more. Read, sir.
And they were very, very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in line with Jacob's daughter.
You see, because she was the only daughter of the 12. Therefore, they looked at her in a more prestigious position, that whomever she was going to have or would have her, they would hold that situation at a high esteem. She was the only one. Therefore, it made her special. And this Hamite took her at his own will. And then when you read,
which thing ought not to be done.
Go on.
And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife.
Read.
And make ye marriages with us.
Read.
And give your daughters unto us.
Now, you understand why this would not have really have happened if he had come and approached her in the first place. You know why that wouldn't have happened? Adrian, why would that not have happened? Say again? I can't hear what you say.
Repeat the question.
Oh, if Shechem had come and said, "Can I have your daughter to wed?" would he have allowed it? Yes or no? No. And why would he not have allowed it? Wendell.
Because she was the only daughter.
The only daughter, but why would he not have allowed it?
Because he was not of the bloodline. So
right. It wasn't. The law was it couldn't happen. Because we were told not to marry outside of our own. Right? I just need it to be clean and clinical. I don't want to bring a whole lot of scenarios to it. Why? Because we have to understand that some things you just have to answer it the way that it is. Right? Then read on, sir.
Yes, sir. Unto us, and take our daughters unto you, and ye shall dwell with us.
See, and then they said, and we will give you our daughters the same way that our son has taken your daughter. But we wouldn't have taken their daughters. Right? Because we're not going to marry outside according to the scripture here, right? Read.
And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you.
Read.
Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein.
Read.
And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give.
Read.
Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife.
Read.
And the sons of Jacob answered Simeon and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah her sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us.
Read.
But it is this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised.
That means the whole village had to be circumcised. Watch this now. Read.
Then will we give our daughters unto you.
Read.
And we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people.
Read.
But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Simeon, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter.
Go on.
And he was more honorable than all the house of his father.
Read.
And Hamor and Simeon his son came unto the gate of their city.
Read.
And communed with them of their city, saying,
Go on.
these men are peaceable with us. Therefore let us dwell in the land, and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only wherein will the men consent unto you for us to dwell with us,
Read.
to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised.
All right, jump down to verse 26.
Verse 26. And they slew Hamor and Simeon his son with the edge of the sword,
Go on.
and took Dinah out of Simeon's house and went out.
Read.
The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister.
Read.
They took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field,
Read.
and all their wealth and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house.
Read.
And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink.
Now, listen very carefully. Now, the reason why I need you to get this, and don't miss it, is because back then, they did this. And what I'm trying to get you to understand from this 12 tribe exploration that we're dealing with is that no sin within Israel ever goes unpunished. Nothing. Right this very minute, any sin that's among us will never go unpunished. If you have done something that Most High is not pleased with, even though he hasn't done anything now, he's going to make sure the books are balanced. Look when they did this. And look at their lives today when you go and check them out in terms of all the trouble that's been in their life in terms of them into witchcraft, washing themselves in mud and feces. Look at that. But let's read on. Read.
Yes, sir. Among the inhabitants of the land.
Stop. Read. Ye have troubled.
Ye have troubled me to make me to stink.
Read.
Among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me,
Read.
and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot?
All right. Now let's go back. Go back to 49.
Yes, sir.
Let's read what it says, and then we'll start to clear up.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's read verse 6 again so you can understand their anger. Now you see where their anger has come from.
Come.
Let's read.
O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall.
And remember, their anger is still today because there's still a division between the two. And they had their own type of internal racism.
Con.
You know, whether we like Asians or Asians like the Dominicans, they had their own foolishness going on.
It's true.
You see? But the scripture said, I have come that he might have life and have that more abundantly. That has to change. Con? Read on.
Verse 7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel.
Now, the scattering means slavery. The scattering in Israel also means this. Notice, Levi, who is one of the brethren, never was issued land. They never were issued land. Levi was scattered into all of the 12 tribes. Levi had to be a priest among all of the 12 tribes. Levi had no possession. And Levi has to serve in the kingdom as a priest. But you got to remember, the Levites were meant to be the royalty, the dignity of Israel. But this caused a blotch, a mark on them. So he said, and he says, I will divide them. I will divide them in Jacob. That's why they are divided. They're on the same island and they are divided. And it says, after I've divided them, it said, and scatter them in Israel. Mm-hmm. Not only is Levi scattered in Israel, they're scattered throughout the world. Con? So we can't go to verse 8 because that's for next week. But I want to finish up with some scriptures. Go back to Black Indians, and I want you to go to page 33. Black Indians, page 33.
Yes, 31, sir.
Let me see what you got. Thank you very much, sir. Start with that right there.
This is the book of the Black Indians, A Hidden Heritage by William Loren Katz.
Now, listen and tell me what this reminds you of. Read.
Between the races, we cannot dig too deep a gulf. In 1522, Europeans in the America first learned that slavery did not easily lead to enormous wealth. On Christmas Day, African and Indian slaves on a plantation owned by Diego Columbus rose and murdered their masters and overseers. Nearby, Native Americans joined the rebels. The beautiful island of Santo Domingo shook with the first recorded slave rebellion in the New World. The conspiracy had spread across the sprawling sugar plantations in the weeks before Christmas.
Listen carefully.
Patiently, the plotters waited until Christmas Day, when the planters and their families would be bloated with food, soaked with liquor, too weak or sleepy to offer much resistance. Then they struck, plunging into the night to kill whites and find freedom. For 2 days, they met little opposition. But on the third day, Spanish troops caught up with the rebels in an open field, an open fire. The fugitives broke for the woods. The Europeans were unfamiliar with the treacherous terrain near the city of Santo Domingo. Few were willing to pursue their most dangerous slaves into that area suited to guerrilla warfare.
All right. Now, what does that remind you of? What does it remind you of?
Are you talking about what happened here in America?
No.
No, I was going to say that.
This story here that he just read, what does it remind you of? I see your hand, sir. What does it remind you of? What does it remind you of? Your attention on me. Forget about that noise in the background. All right. Johannes?
It reminds me of King David.
No, sir. What does it remind you of? This that you've just, see, this astonishes me.
Mhm.
We've just read it. We just read it in Genesis chapter 34. And they made the men put themselves together to have circumcision. And after they had the circumcision done, they were very weak and feverish and in pain. And they were weak. And then the brothers went in and slaughtered them all. Right? This is Simeon and Levi. That's what they did to overthrow Shechem, who was honorable, by the way, because he heeded to what they said because he wanted the daughter that much. Now, years later, this is still Santo Domingo. This is Haiti still. And guess what? The people got all drunk and fattened up after they'd just eaten. And the same Simeon and Levi comes in and does what? Kill them all. We just read it, brothers and sisters. We just read it. They did the same thing all over again. That's why you've got to pay attention. You. Right? Very important. Okay? So you see, we just read it, and you see the story as it merged again. Huh? But did you have your hand up? That's it? Okay. All right. So does that make sense to you so far?
Yes, God.
Is it clear? All right. Now we're going to, this is the last book in the week. This is where we're going to finish up. This book here is called Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in Spain and Portugal discovery. All right. Let's hand that over to our brother there. I want you, sir, to go to page 95.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, there.
And let me just see, just show me this book here. Right, yeah. Go ahead.
This is the book, Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries. It's by Myra K. Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
In Cuba, Hispaniola, and the other islands which he discovered, Columbus found natives who had their casillas and their own language and traditions. To what race did these aborigines of America belong? Several writers have asserted and have displayed much learning in attempting to prove that the aborigines were descendants of the Jews. This result was reached already in the 16th century by the Spanish clergyman Roldan. His arguments were derived from an unpublished manuscript which he discovered in the library of S. Pablo in Seville. Montesinos, who possessed the manuscripts of Luis Lopez, the learned Bishop of Quito, was convinced that the Peruvians were of Jewish origins.
Of who?
Peruvians were of Jewish origins.
Read on.
The view of Roldan and of Gregorio Garcia that the aborigines of America were descendants of the Jews were maintained with many arguments in one and the same year, 1650, independently by the Englishman, Thorogood, and by the Portuguese Jew, Manasseh ben Israel,
Go on.
a renowned rabbi of Amsterdam, who induced Cromwell to allow the Jews to return to England. A Portuguese Moreno of Villaflor, who, strange to say, also called himself Mustasinos, and afterward assumed the name Aaron, Levi, informed Manasseh that he had mingled in South America with Jews of the 10 tribes. Manasseh's book attracted much attention and was translated into Latin, Spanish, Dutch, English, Italian, and Hebrew, nor has interest in it ceased even at the present day.
All right, now jump to page, what page are you on, sir?
96.
96, all right, continue.
This treaty on the present day, this said Indians and Israelites. This treaty On the,
Salaki, sir. I just want to, right, I want you to turn because there's a page that deals with, let me see. Yeah, just go with that last page there, where your thumb is.
yes.
Go ahead.
Indians and Israelites. They refrained from touching the dead and from tasting blood. They had definite fast days. Marriage with sister-in-law was permitted if they were childless widows. Wives were discarded for new helpmates. They also sacrificed first fruits on high mountains and under shady trees. They had temples and carried a holy ark before them in time of war. They were also, like the 10 tribes, inclined to idol worship. All writers and travelers agree. Moreover, that there were many Jewish types of face among the Indians, the Aborigines of America. The question...
Now stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Read that last clause again, please.
Yes, sir. That there were many Jewish types of face among the Indians, the Aborigines of America.
All right, we can stop there. So you can see that it's making it very clear that the Aborigines of America were indeed Jews. All right. Let's finish up with, let's go to Malachi. Let's see, before I do that, Deuteronomy chapter 33 and 8, real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 33. 33 and 8.
Yes, sir, we're there.
Let's read.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
And of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One.
So, do you know what the Thummim is? And the Urim? You've been in church a long time. You can tell me they didn't teach that in the Christian church? What is the Thummim and the Urim? Anyone? Well, thank the Most High you're going to know today. The Thummim, they were like glass type balls. They were used that they would emit light and signals. So it would speak to them from the Most High. The same way as the breastplate would light up in terms of if it wanted to spell out a word, it would light, each stone would light up to spell out a word. The Thummim and Urim had the same effect, that they in fact would light up and it would give them instructions. But then when we read on, it says, read, sir.
Yes, sir. Be with thy Holy One, whom thou didst prove at Massa, and with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah.
Go on.
Who said unto his father and to his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children.
Go on.
For they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant.
Now, the reason why that's important for you to understand is that the Levites, in terms of who they were, they are like this. That those of their day, they followed the commandments 100. That's why I remember when the Israelites started to worship the calf, and Most High said to them, I want you to get all your Levites, get a sword in their hand, and all of the people who worship the calf, he wanted the Levites to slaughter them. Did you know that those Levites, some of their mothers, brothers, sisters, wives were in that? Not a lot of people know that.
So that's how come the Father said he had to honor them, because they actually killed everybody regardless of who it was.
Because when the Most High gave them the commandment and told them to go forward, they killed even their own children, their own mother, their own wife, their own brother. If they worshiped that thing, they slaughtered them.
Mm.
That's why they were held to such high esteem. See, wow. See, so when you, because when the Lord said to them, now have a sword in your hand, go forth and kill all of them that worship it. If they did not do that, they themselves would have died. Because he said, go and kill them all. And so they slaughtered them all. See that? Read verse 10, sir. Then let's
Verse 10, Deuteronomy 33 and 10.
Let me finish talk first.
Oh, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
They shall teach Jacob thy judgments.
See, they are supposed to teach Israel the judgments. You see? Because they're in charge of that. Levi, lawyer. Levi stands for law. Read.
And Israel thy law. They shall put incense before thee, and hold burnt sacrifice upon thine altar.
Malachi chapter 2. Last scripture, Malachi chapter 2.
Yes, sir.
Let's read.
This is the book of Malachi, chapter 2 and 1. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. If ye will not hear, and if ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, said the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you.
Oh, what?
I will even send a curse upon you.
Read.
And I will curse your blessings. Yea, I will curse them already, because ye do not lay it to heart.
Jump to verse 3.
Verse 3. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces.
Now you see how that's fulfilled itself now?
Oh, yes.
Remember what we just read? Read.
And spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feast.
Go on.
And one shall take you away with it.
All right, jump to verse 8.
Verse 8. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law.
And that's what they have done, because they're leading their people now into witchcraft. Simeon and Levi are leading their people into witchcraft. Read.
Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, said the Lord of hosts.
Because they were meant to be, they were held high. Remember, in the kingdom age that we're all seeking to go into, even though they won't have land and so on, they will be held so high and lofty, they will be like kings, but they will be priests. They will wear some of the most royal garments you've ever seen. They will have the beauty and splendor of jewelry, not for the sake of just being hip, but the jewelry will be a denotation of the glory of God on them. You see? And they will live in palaces. Notice they won't have land. They'll live in palaces. They will be great, and they will do the work of the Most High God among the nations. Read. Let's finish it.
I finished
Verse
that.
9.
Verse 9. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law.
In the law. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 32 and 11 to conclude that, precept upon precept. So Deuteronomy 33 and 11.
33 and 11.
Bless the Lord,
Yes, sir.
his substance, and accept the work of his hand.
This is the book of Deuteronomy 33 and 11. Bless, Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hand.
Read.
Smite through the loins of them that rise against him, and of them that hate him, and they rise not again.
So it's very powerful. We'll stop there. So I know it's been a lot of information, But as I warned you that we can't, although we have to bring the scriptures with it, we have to also bring the historical facts to back it up as well. And remember, we've read from other witnesses where they have said it. This is the other nations telling you who you are. And they made it very, very clear. And you could see that the Most High God knew what Simeon and Levi would do, because even in Malachi, it says you're going to wipe dung on your face. And we saw it.
Yeah.
So the Most High has seen, I mean, wait till we hit Judah. But this is very deep and much deeper than we first believed, first understood. Any questions from anyone here, as well as those online? Please feel free to ask those questions. I know it's been heavy, a little bit heavy. Wasn't supposed to be heavy, but I did take my time purposefully so that the information could sink in. All right? So do we have any questions from you here? And you who are online, feel free at this time to ask your questions. Right, do we have any questions? Right? Do you have a question, sir?
They cannot detract from the 12 tribes chart of what we just read.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's right there. And then we saw it. They're doing it today. When he said they would spread dung on their faces. Because I've heard that many times people try to say that the chart was not accurate or whatever. But we just saw it.
Exactly. Well, the reason why people speak that certain things are not accurate is because they don't know the history and they don't know how to tie the scriptures to the history. We've just done that. And y'all willing, I hope, we've made it plain so that all could understand. And I hope that those who have listened from all parts of this country and the world will turn back now and say, yeah, I get why that is. I didn't before, but now I understand it. I understand why they are and why they have messed up and why they are going through the hell that they're going through in their country, because they have fallen far from the laws, statutes, and commandments that they should be pushing. All right? Yes, please.
You were supposed to tell us what you do.
Oh, yes, I forgot that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot that one. I may let that one kind of simmer for a little bit, but definitely I'm going to. You have to know it, because throughout this 12 tribe chart, it's something that you have to know. So we'll see if you get it today or next week. We'll get it. But if anything, what I will definitely do, I will give you empirical proof, so you'll have that. All right? We have some questions online. Yes, please.
Why were they influenced by voodoo and not the Most High?
Yeah, because they have become corrupt. When you fall out of your calling, you become corrupt. And remember, that's not the first time. Remember, this is the children of Israel, 12 tribes. Let me give you a better example so you'll understand what I'm saying even clearer. Moses comes along and takes the people, the 12 tribes, out of Egypt, leads them through the wilderness, brings them to a sea that's now impassable. They cannot pass over. And in the midst of them, he raises his staff and the sea opens up. They cross over on dry land. And the light of the Lord is with them, going through the valley of the shadows of death. They come out on the other side and watch the Red Sea close up, killing all of the nuclear power of Egypt. All of the power that made them dangerous was destroyed. Remember, they had seen all of the 10 plagues. They now go through the wilderness and they get manna from heaven, angels' food. The word manna means, what is this? And they eat that until they're sick of it. They say, we don't want it. So they say, we want some meat. So the Most High says, I'll give you meat until you can't eat meat no more. And he sends quail, those fat birds, and they fly down and they eat quail until they're sick of it. And now they're at the foot of Sinai. Moses has been called to go up higher. And amidst all of what they had seen, they then come to Aaron, who's a Levi, and say to him, hey, Aaron, where's this Moses fellow? He's gone, because he was up there for a season. And notice what Aaron says. Give me all the rings. He says, break up a piece of gold off of your ear from your sons and your daughters and bring it here. And Aaron leads them into making a calf. A Levite builds a calf. And notice the Most High was so wroth with him, he didn't kill him right away because he was covered by his office. His office was the office of a priest, and he was a high priest. So he didn't kill him right away, but the Lord was going to kill him. And he does kill him eventually. Moses comes down and sees what's going on. He takes the commandments here, then smashes them. How did they do all of that, knowing that they've seen all of what they've seen and experienced what they've experienced, yet they still worship a calf? It's the same question that you're asking me, basically. Why did they not keep the commandments of God but go into witchcraft and voodoo? Same thing, same people. Why are the 12 tribes that are right here in America right now, why are they not realizing, oh, we're the Jews, and lifting up holy hands and worshiping the Most High God and flocking? Because they love darkness more than they love light. If it was so easy to get our people to come to the truth, it would be so easy for us, but it's not. You've got to almost beg people, and you've got to, the scripture says, I beseech you therefore, brethren. The word beseech means to beg by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a what? A living sacrifice,
Holy
and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. He had to beg them to do that. And that's what leadership has to do every single week. We beg people to keep the Sabbath. We beg people to read the scriptures. We beg people to come and learn more. We beg them each week. And that's why it's sad when you see people come so far. Remember what we opened with this morning? With how do you know that you are chosen? How do you know you're chosen? It begins before you are even created. Romans chapter 8 and 28 on down. You have to know that you have been predestined. Many of us, he has, many are called, many, but only few are chosen. Are you chosen? How are we going to know that? You've got to walk this walk until you die. That's the only way you're going to know if you're saved. And Christians that said, oh, I got baptized, I'm saved now. Save my foot. You're not saved. Same people who talk about they're saved today are in the club tomorrow, twerking and carrying on and all the rest of it, running after this woman and that woman. That's why the writer says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren. I beg you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. You have to be begging people to stay the walk. Oh yeah. Any other questions?
These next two questions are pertaining to Genesis 34.
Genesis 34.
Did they touch Dinah since it says she was defiled?
Yes. Because they touched Dinah, she was defiled. Is that thing?
Did they touch Dinah since it says she was defiled? Did they touch Dinah because it says she was defiled?
All right. Now, she was defiled because she had relationships. I was choosing my word because I'm thinking about the children. She had relationships with a man that was outside of their people. She was defiled in this regard, that she was no longer a whole woman because her flower had been taken, and not taken willingly, taken by force. So she was defiled. Now, can that defilement be fixed? No, can't be fixed. Done. Then how can she have someone in the future? Well, someone will come in spite of her situation, love her and want her nonetheless. But there are men like that. Come on. Go ahead. Another question, sir.
How come it was considered a sin when they slew Hamor and his son if they were Hamites? I thought the law only applied when it was against another Israelite.
Say it one more time. Huh?
How come it was considered a sin when they slew Hamor and his son if they were Hamites? I thought the law only applied when it was against another Israelite.
Yeah. Speaking about Shechem and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, Shechem had come into their family and taken their daughter, right? And that has nothing to do with the fact whether it was among an Israelite or not. That was an outsider who has come and taken their daughter and had not negotiated with the father. Common decency would be, I'm a father, I have a daughter. If you want my daughter, common decency is that you just don't take her by force, you come to me first. And you speak to me. But remember, they were living among Hamites, whose laws were different. And their laws were, and remember, he was also, got to remember as well, he was a prince. And princes have their way with whosoever will. You see? But the difference is when he took this one, he just didn't take her. He fell in love with her too. And that's why after he had taken her, when you read the scripture, it said, and his heart, it said, and where does it say? It said, after he had taken her, it said, that's why it said, if I had some good brothers among me, they would be right there to say, oh, Master, blah, blah, blah.
3:24.
But these brothers are still in training. All right, but the long and the short was anyway that he should never have done it because he was Hamite, and the least thing that he should have done in the respect of Jacob was to come to Jacob first, but he didn't do that. And the way forward was not for even him to come, but his father would have come to Jacob and negotiated the wedding. Because remember, Israel, we have arranged marriages. See, our marriages are always arranged. It's been that way since time immemorial. This is why this concept that they have today about, well, I've got to love him. If I don't love him, I can't marry him. That's not how it goes. That's not. Because again, we have good people, so I mean, you come together. Anyway, that's straight. That's going into something else.
So, may I just add an additional question to that part? So, the brothers were considered considerably evil.
Yes.
Because of their methods of the killing of those Hamites.
Well, they were wrong because they took innocent blood, because there's only one guy who did the mess. But that's why it said the walls were torn down, meaning they destroyed the whole village. So people died for one man's action. One man's lust that he couldn't keep under control caused a whole village to be destroyed. And they destroyed them all, by the way. Because remember, after they destroyed them, Scripture says, it says here that they went and they took their little ones, their wives, and they took all the spoils and even their houses. And Jacob said unto Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me. And he said, you have troubled me to make me a stench among the inhabitants of the land. He was a small concern among some very powerful tribes. The Perizzites were powerful. The Canaanites were powerful. The Havites were powerful. And you destroyed them all. And remember, all the men, the only reason why those men were so easily taken, because the Hamites are known to be men of might. The only reason why they were able to even take them was because they were weakened, because they had the circumcision done. And circumcision puts people in pain. You're still going through fever and all of those things. They couldn't do anything. So you were evil in your intent to go in there and to slaughter them like that. Remember, we're the 12 tribes of Israel, but that's not how we conduct business. Because the Scripture says that we are meant to be a light to the world. We're meant to be an example. But where is the light? Where is the example now? And that's why even in the kingdom age, remember, none of the nations in the kingdom age will have our power. Remember, death from Israel would have been defeated. All the other nations still go through death. They still die, they still grow old. We, on the other hand, never grow old, never die. Nothing can affect us. We become invulnerable at this point. And now, all that's happening today. So we have to always be an example to the other nations. And that's why, from time immemorial, he always used us to be an example, a living example. But we blow it. Why? Because we don't understand who we are. Because if we really did, we wouldn't do half the things we do.
Could it be that they were reminiscent of when the Most High brought them out of the wilderness, and when they were conquering the lands, he would tell them to go in and destroy everything and everybody? So,
well, when they were doing all of that, they were doing it under the auspices of the Most High God. He told them, this is what the Most High God told him to do. Go in and spare none of them. Now, the Father told them that.
okay.
See, now that's an order.
Okay.
Why do you think when Saul turned around and spared, he kept some of the sheep? Remember, the Lord said, kill everything, even the sheep, everything. Just wipe it all out. But he brought back sheep, he brought back goats, he brought back camels, and then he brought back some of the high ones, the kings. You see, and then remember when Samuel saw that, he was so vexed, he pulled the sword and he sliced the man to death in front of his eyes. Because, first of all, you were told to kill them all. And notice, because of Saul, that the aggregate nation comes back later as the Greeks and destroys us and puts us in slavery. Because Saul didn't do what he was told to do. That's why I said earlier on, that there's nothing that we have done in our history that does not get paid for. That's why many of us as Israelites, we think because we're Israelite, we get a pass. No, you don't. You are going to, the scripture says that which is past is required. So if you have done something in your past, he requires payment for that. So none of us, none of us gets away with nothing. We all pay. We pay now or we pay later, but we will pay.
Yes, sir.
See? So yes, it's a very heavy subject, and that's why the Christian church right now, as you see it, every last one of them are going to suffer the consequence of their action. I saw from people that I know on Facebook, because I don't use Facebook. I opened it one time in order because blah blah blah, and I've never updated. I've never done anything to Facebook. Never changed. Even the picture that I have, it's still the same picture there. It hasn't changed. That's a younger version of this older version now. And here's the thing, that I saw some of our people that I know who are on it, and I was shocked to see now these are ageable men and women in their 40s and 50s and some in their 60s. And the way that they were dressed, doing selfies, I was like, what the HELL is going on here?
Yeah.
Sis, you're too old. What? You got this pushed up, this out there. What? I couldn't believe my eyes. These are people that I've known for a long time. And here's what bothered me. When they were younger, they wouldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Why are they doing it now, past 50, carrying on like that? And it blows my, and then you get some of these grandfather looking brothers trying to look like they still got their swagger on, and they look pathetic. They look like old men. They look tired, trying to look like they got some game going on.
Yeah, God.
You're old now. At least have some dignity about yourself, and you're meant to be a statesman now. Be the statesman. Be a man of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you pass on to the next generation. Don't be swaggering up like you still can get somebody. And this is what we see. And I saw some sisters. I had to take a double look. In fact, I had to, and you may think I'm exaggerating. I had to take another pair of glasses, put it over these, and look closer to see, is this blah? I couldn't believe my eyes. So yes, is there any other questions on that?
One additional question, let's see here. Is that where other nations, and this is in reference to the Thumans?
To the who?
The Thumans? The Thumans?
Yeah, the Thuman and the human.
Is that where other nations got crystal balls from?
Absolutely. You're very right. Whoever asked that question, you're very right. You see, remember, we are the authors of a great many things that the Most High God has put into us. Look, you see some of our people going mad about crystals and all of that thing. Well, I got this crystal, and then you go to their home, they got crystal here, crystal there, crystal. Now, there's nothing wrong with the crystals. It's just that you kind of brinking on going into witchcraft with the book where you're going with, and I line it up like this, and it brings that energy into my heart. What? Behave. Those things are there. Look, half the stones. I took my children many years ago. I like to go to museums. One of the things I just love to do that. And I took them to museums where they had crystals and what's the other crystal? Onyx and these bigger crystals that they have. Because there's some crystals that they have that I believe, and I truly believe that, they have these crystals and they don't know the power that they have in front of them. These crystals are there on display, but they don't know how to activate it. I truly believe in my spirit that many of these crystals that they have, that the Most High God in the kingdom age will give us the knowledge, because the Bible says that the sun will be 7 times brighter and the moon will be several times brighter also. That simply means that our knowledge will be 10 times greater than what it is now. Now imagine that. We will know when we look at a crystal how to activate that crystal to draw out of it the rays and the powers that it holds, that's locked into it, that it can do for this world more than be on display for someone to look and go, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Those things aren't there because the scripture said, in the Apocrypha, it said this world was made for us. And every single thing in it, he has made it for us to be able to bring a whole new understanding to the world. Look, I was reading or watching something, I don't remember, where this white man, yes, it was a white man, and what happened, he did this. He had a submarine. Because you've heard me teach and say that there are streams and the bottom and there are rivers under the sea, ocean, etc. This man said he went down and he said that they saw a river under the sea. And he said he wanted to get into it, and he said he tried to get into this river to see where it would lead, and he said the submarine bounced off it. Like there was a firmament down there holding the sea as we know it from another sea that's beneath. And the reason why I know that, because the Bible says that there are chambers beneath the sea. The word chambers means room. So then I'm finding in the book of Job. So now I'm to believe then that those things are beneath the sea, and therefore those are things for us to bring or open up to the world when we are in the kingdom. He won't have that now. And by the way, the same man who discovered that, and they showed the film all over the world, and it was a great phenomenon by itself. Those same men, when they came back up, and they were going to do some show in Australia, because it was in one of their seas out there. They said that they got into their helicopter, and their helicopter blew up. Mm. Why would that happen? Same helicopter that had been used throughout all of their exploration, and all of a sudden this time now, because they came back with the film and showed that information, their helicopter blew up. So the point is that the devil of this world, they know what they want the world to know, what the world they don't want the world to know. Because look, there are lands still available that we've not seen. We're in this mindset, these are only the... What? Do you know who our Father is? Do you think he weren't thinking about the future? But they know they can't let people go and discover these other lands, because what do you think people are going to do? Well, I'm getting out of America. All that messing around. I'm going blah, blah, blah. Everybody starts leaving America. All of a sudden, the economy crashes and there's hell to pay. So what happens is they won't allow that. And that's why there are certain restrictions that people can't go to certain parts of the earth. They've banned that. But the Most High God has lots for us to see that we haven't seen yet. And that's why it's a nonsense to believe that we're on a ball. I remember one brother that used to be with us, he said we're on a ball. I said, come on, behave. Nothing so stupid as being on a ball. But when you consider that we're on a plane now, that stretches out forever, now you can see how Israel can go on forever. Mm. Imagine in the kingdom, you produce with your husband again, thousands of your bloodline. Imagine, where would they go? And I'm just speaking about you now. You. Now imagine all of us and the way that we as a people can produce children. There has to be room for more. And the Father has already thought that out. We would greatly be mistaken to limit him just to a ball. Give me a break.
That seems more finite than, I think of like infinite. Like this.
Exactly. When it's a plane, it's infinite. It goes on forever. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I hope that everyone has been well versed and, as they used to say, watered and fed by the word. I hope that you have truly grasped what the scriptures has given to us. I pray that your hunger and thirst for the truth continues to propel you forward. I pray that the Most High continues to give me strength that I can sit before you each week. I pray that even Yahweh, who's off in another part of the vineyard, that the Most High gives him strength to continue to do what he's doing. And all the rest of our brothers and sisters who are scattered across the nation, we look forward that if it be the will of Yah for us to meet up one day, so it be. If it be not, then we know that if we don't meet here, we certainly will meet over in the kingdom. But I pray you continue to study, to show yourself approved. A workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And I just want to say to you, please like us, subscribe to us, get your friends to like, and hopefully if they hear and it has been a blessing to them, that they will continue to refer their friends also. And if it is in your spirit to give, we will freely receive it with the blessings of the Most High God. But if it is not, don't worry about it. The fact that you're tuning in and you are learning is the greatest thing ever. On behalf of myself, I just want to give you greetings, and from the family here, to those who are in the United Kingdom, from Brother Azariah, from Dominican, our brothers over in Zimbabwe and Mozambique, and those in Nigeria and Kenya, and all of those over in Dar es Salaam. We greet our brothers over there and we say, continue to watch, continue to learn, and if it be the will of Yah, once we're finished with our brothers over in the DR, if it be the will of Most High that we come out there and help you too, then so be it. But there's just so much work to do, and I pray that the Most High puts it in your spirit that you can help your brothers in different parts of the nation or country or world as it be. And to those over, Brother Michael and Brother Ahaya over there in Detroit, we say, Osceola to the brothers there. To Brother Robert in Dallas, Texas. Officer, I greet you in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach Yahushai. We look forward to seeing you all, sitting down with you all at the Feast of Tabernacles coming up soon. And we greet you by saying, Wam Yasharala, and we look forward to seeing you again. Selah.
Stay locked.